What's up, everybody? Chris, the old-ass retro gamer here, back for another Video Game Collection 2022 live stream. This is the second part of my NES collection. Last time I said it was probably going to be a 3-part series, but then looking back at it, I think it's going to be a 4-part series because my collection has grown since the last time I did one of these collection streams 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was. Not that I'm complaining. I loves me some NES. So, yeah, I did the first 2 shelves worth of NES games last time. Today I'm doing the next 2, followed next week by the next 2, and then the week after that, the final 2. Because that's just how things work. Anyway, thanks for coming and hanging out with me tonight. Need to check the comments real quick. What's up, GWN? How's it going? Doing well. What's up, Dan? How's it going? So, yeah, tonight is the next 2 shelves worth. Hopefully it'll be another 2-hour stream. I'm glad that I'm keeping them around the 2-hour mark. The old ones used to go for about 3, sometimes 3.5, and man, would I suffer the next day. I wouldn't be able to talk. So, here we go. Starting off with a Dragon Warrior. And yes, when I was young, when the Nintendo was the console, I did get my free copy of Dragon Warrior along with my Nintendo Power subscription. Yeah, I don't know if... I'm sure everybody remembers that. Well, it depends on how old you are. Old like me. Yeah, when Nintendo Power first started off... Hey, it gets better. Yeah, when Nintendo Power was first starting up to try to get people to subscribe to the magazine, they were like, hey, subscribe, get a free copy of Dragon Warrior with your subscription. So naturally, free game. Yeah, I'll do it. And the thing was, I never played it all that much. My dad was the one who actually latched onto this because at the time he was always using his Atari 800XL computer to play the Ultima games, which were RPGs, very early RPGs. And this was like a step above what he was playing graphically, play-wise, story-wise, I'm assuming, because he used to come, I'd come home from school or whatever, and I'd find him in my room playing my NES. So, yeah, he absolutely loved this. I never beat this myself. I watched him beat it, therefore I didn't feel like I needed to. So I just always had this in my collection just in case I felt like playing an RPG. But then again, back when this was relevant, I didn't really like RPGs all that much. I had watched, I brought him up a lot last stream. Peter criticized me for it, my old buddy Gary. I used to go to his house and watch him just play through a video game from the beginning to end. And he tried to do that with Final Fantasy with me. And after like the first hour and a half, 2 hours of watching him play, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home. This is going to take a while, and I don't feel like sitting here to watch it. So it kind of turned me off to RPGs, including this one, but doesn't mean I'm not going to do it now. I mean, I really... Last year, or actually, no, it was 2020 was supposed to be my year for RPGs. All these RPGs I've been buying that I've been talking about wanting to play, I was going to do nothing but play RPGs all year long, and then COVID hit and just didn't happen because I was spending so much time at work, didn't feel like coming home and grinding and, you know, dealing with like long conversation stuff because I probably would have just fallen asleep. I just needed some quick boom, boom, boom action type games in order to keep my interest. So that kind of went out the window. But it is a classic RPG, top down, you know, type overworld. And then when you get into a fight, I think this one was more like, yeah, it's like a little window and it shows you the enemy you're fighting, like the slimes and everything. So, yeah, I should probably play through this because I do really, really want to get around to playing part 4 because that one just sounds really interesting to me. Then I got to play through 1, 2, and 3 before I get there because my brain works. Let's see. How do I have to stack these up backwards? Alrighty, then. Next up is an absolute classic. We got the Ducktales. This was one of the first games I picked up when I got back into collecting in 2013. Got this off of some guy in a Facebook group. He sold. I talked about it when I talked about Adventures of Tom Sawyer because this was in that lot of games that I picked up from the guy. And he did me a solid because every game he sent me was good. The only problem with this one is the cartridge looks like he wiped his ass with it or something because it is all faded and worn out. I might just buy a new cartridge and throw it in here, but because the box is not too shabby. But this was one of those games that I actually beat back in the day. Like I said last time, I'm pretty good at modern day video games when it comes to the retro stuff. I'm not that great. Even when I was a kid, I wasn't all that great, but I just loved playing them. So I didn't beat too many games back then. Came close to beating some really hard ones like Ninja Gaiden and stuff, but I just never put in the time to do so. But DuckTales was one that I did. I played through this and had a ton of fun doing it. Music is absolutely iconic. The gameplay is great. I can't say enough good things about it. I loved the cartoon of this back when it was a thing. The original, not the new one. I haven't seen the new one at all. But nothing but great memories playing this one. I would love to get the second one. Probably not going to happen, though, because I don't feel like spending that much money on one video game. Next up, we got Dino Wars, the Destruction of Spondylous. Okay. This one I didn't really know much about. I remember seeing this at our local video store all the time. But I'm sorry, that artwork just... I mean, as much as I love sci-fi, that artwork was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. It was just one of those where I was like, yeah, I'm good. So I never actually rented this. But when I got back into collecting, start watching all these YouTubers talking about all these like hidden gems and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, this got mentioned on a couple of lists. So I got curious, and then I watched like a playthrough of it, and I think it was what's the name of that channel I'm subscribed to? Long Play, World of Long Plays, I think it is. And they did one of this, or it was one of those channels. And I was like, wow, that actually looks kind of cool because it's got two different play styles. So basically, you're a little dude and a big walking mechanical dinosaur, and you do like a platforming area as the dinosaur, and you can shoot and take on enemies and stuff. And then once you get to like a base, you have to infiltrate it. So you jump out of the dinosaur, and then you do a different type of platforming as the character that was inside the dinosaur. And the rules for what happens in those areas are completely different from the ones that are established when you're playing as the dinosaur, which is kind of cool. So when I got this one off of another dude on Facebook, Facebook, I played it for, I think, like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I was like, wow, I was a stupid kid going by the artwork. But then again, that's all you really had back in the day. If you didn't have a video game magazine telling you what was good, what was not good, you just basically went off the artwork. And this one didn't do it for me. But now I'm like, this game is actually kind of cool. So I'm not sad that I own it. And I think I'm doing these wrong. Am I stacking these up wrong? No, I'm not. I'm doing it right. I knew it. So this is kind of awesome. This never came out over here. This is a repro. It's weird. Okay, so everybody knows Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. Highly sought after RPG. wasn't worth a goddamn thing back when it first came out. Nobody bought it. Nobody played it. Now it's worth a mint. So because of the boosted popularity, when Nintendo, what was it, the Virtual Arcade first came out, I think it was on the Wii U, I think it was. They were like, hey, we never released the original game in the series because Earthbound is actually from a series in Japan called Mother. Earthbound is actually part 2 in that series. There was one that came out for the Famicom we never got, and then there was a part 3 that was released for the Game Boy Advance that we never got. We only got part 2. So when Nintendo realized that they had jacked up, they'd screwed up back in the day by not releasing the original, they were like, hey, we'll release it on the Virtual Console or whatever it is as Earthbound Origins, or Earthbound Beginnings, sorry. And that was the only way you could really play it without getting like a cartridge from Japan of the original with a translation or something like that, or a bootleg. And someone decided to rip the game off of the Virtual Console and put it on a cartridge. So this is the official Nintendo released version that was on the Virtual Console onto a cartridge. And this company I got it from is the VGDB, the Video Game Database. And they sold this, and they sold Mother 3 on the Game Boy Advance, which I also bought. Spoiler alert. I bought these both at the same time, so I could actually play the OG before because at the time that I bought this, I was actually just starting to play Earthbound. And I saw this, I'm like, I'm going to stop because I want to play the first one before I play the second one. Still haven't gotten around to it because this is actually still sealed. How about we do an unboxing? I bought this game like 2 years ago, and I still haven't unwrapped it. So let's do that. I can get this bullshit graded because this is a repro. Let's see here. I need something to cut it with. Where's my paintbrush? Damn it. Well, I got scissors. It is raining like a mother out there right now. I can hear it. It was starting to rain on my way home. I was like, am I going to be able to get home in time? Shit, open up. There we go. Come on. Stream can't last all day. Watch me unwrap this damn thing. I honestly forgot what this comes with inside because I bought it so long ago. I was actually worried that I got like duped, like it was some scam website where they're like, oh, we've got this translation of Earthbound 1 or Mother 1. Okay, so there is the box. Not all reflective because it's not in my sleeve anymore. You can even see the holographic label for the Video Game Database. You got the back here. It's Earthbound Beginnings. And it looks like a standard RPG on the NES. The box actually feels like an authentic Nintendo box. Not like usually like the repros that I get, they're like in this thicker cardboard. Okay, so we got the card itself, which is actually wrapped in plastic. Let's take that out of there. And it's a red cart. That is kind of cool the way that looks. I like it. Comes with a couple of Video Game Database stickers. Yay. This comes with a map, which is kind of cool. I don't know if the original Famicom one did or not. That's really tiny. And tiny, tiny wording, which means I'm not going to be able to read it because my eyes suck. And a full-color manual. That's pretty rad. It's rare when you get like a repro that actually comes with like a cool card. And I mean, I'll usually just get it. It'll usually just come with like a manual, if anything. But to come with like a map and all that, it just makes you wonder if that's actually ported over from the Famicom version of the game or not. That's kind of cool. I'm super thrilled that I have this now. Before I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I got Earthbound 1 or Mother 1. Yeah. I like it. So, yeah, there's that. And like I said, it's just a standard-looking RPG, but you play as a bunch of kids going on a little adventure. Put it back in El Protector and move on. Classic Excite Bike. I used to play this at my buddy Gary's all the time. Also, the bowling alley that I used to go to when I was a kid. Hey, what's up, dude? How's it going, Cap? This is the other Cap. This is Captain Foley from Trek Yards, not Captain Algebra. I used to play this all the time at my buddy Gary's and at the local bowling alley because they had it was like a pre-play choice 10. I want to say they had like 3 different games on it. They had Super Mario Brothers, Excite Bike, and something else, and I don't remember what the hell it was. Might have been Hogan's Alley. But used to play this all the time. Just a real simple motocross type game. And does this have to make your own? Design your own motocross course. Yeah, I can't remember if it was the Famicom Disk System game that only let you do it, or if it was this. I never actually did it back in the day. But real simple game. I still like it. They made sort of sequels to this for the Wii. There was, Excite Truck and Excite Bots, which are actually pretty decent. Can't complain. Then Faxanadu, clone of Zelda 2, if there ever was one. This one's by Hudson. Hudson made it, but for some reason they didn't release it. Nintendo bought the rights for it from them and released it instead, which is weird, being that it's very reminiscent of another game that they had released already. Nintendo was weird. Maybe they saw that it could have been a direct competitor to Zelda 2 and just released this, kind of going yeah, whatever. We're releasing it in limited quantities, therefore it can't interfere with the Legend of Zelda 2. It plays very similarly. It's like a action-y RPG side-scrolling game. It's pretty fun. It's very complicated. It relies heavily on memorization on where things are and where you need to go to get said things. I was never very good at this game back in the day, but I still loved it regardless. I used to play this all the time. I got this on clearance at KB Toys, I think, when I talk about how I was always saving my lunch money when I was in high school and then going to the mall and buying a clearance game. And I do remember clearly that I bought this one. But like I said, I was terrible at it, but I still love it. So, high nostalgia factor. Okay, so last stream, I brought up T-Scran Vigat. And what is that? That is, or it was, a Facebook group that was a raffle group. Someone wanted to sell a very expensive game but didn't want to put it up on eBay, so they didn't want to pay all those fees. They would go to this group, tell the guy who runs it, hey, let's say I have a copy of Earthbound. It's worth $800. I want to sell it and get $800 for it. So we'll put it up for raffle. We'll put it up for $5 a ticket, and every ticket that's available, when you put all those tickets available for $5, when you put them all together, it equals up $800. That's how many tickets are available, as long as it equals up to the price the person is looking for. The tickets go on sale. People buy them until there's no more. Raffle happens. Someone's picked as a winner. You win the game. Guy that wanted to sell the game gets his money. A little bit goes to the guy who runs the Facebook group as a fee. Not nearly as much as what eBay would charge. And there you go. I used to frequent this group all the time. All the time. I won so much stuff from them, including some very... You will see them in later streams. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know which ones they are. I got some really expensive stuff for dirt cheap, and this is one of them. When I got this, I think I paid $6 for this. I think it was $6. It was worth at the time about $150, $170, and that is Felix the Cat. This is a very late, I do believe, NES game that was released late in the NES's lifespan. It was after the Super Nintendo was already out. So there weren't a whole lot of copies of this. Are you fucking kidding me? This goddamn camera froze up on me again. I just reset this freaking computer, too. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to put the logo thing back up. I'm going to put it on loop. I'll be right back. I got to reboot the computer again. Okay, I'm back. Everything's still looking and sounding okay. This computer, it's almost 8 years old at this point. I'm using the built-in camera webcam. So like every time I want to use it, I have to like reboot the computer. So I left the computer off all day long, and then started it back up when I got home, and it should usually work. I don't know. There's that. Maybe it's like, stop telling the story about T-Scran. So where was I? Felix the Cat. So T-Scran, somebody put this up for raffle on that T-Scran website or that Facebook group, and I bought 2 tickets. They were $3 each. I bought 2 tickets, so I paid a whopping $6 for this, and I won it. I was basically saying I wanted it because this was early on in my collecting, so I was kind of like, this is a really easy way to get some of these really expensive games super cheap, and I had a habit of just winning. I want to say when it came to me participating in these raffles, I won maybe 60% of the time. I lost out on a TurboGrafx system with, like, I think everything. I think it was a TurboGrafx console, the TurboGrafx CD. It had the Turbo Booster and a bunch of games. I missed out on this big, like, $1,000 bundle that this guy was auctioning off. And a couple of bigger games. I ended up losing out on one and then winning a different one later. I'll talk about that in like the Super Nintendo. But yeah, I didn't really care if I got the game or not. I was just like, this is a real cheap way to get a really expensive game into the collection. And when it showed up, I was just kind of like, yeah, this game, I bet you $10. It's not that great, even if it is released by Hudson. And Hudson had a good track record, at least to me. And when I actually played it, I was like, it's a kid's game, but it's actually kind of fun. It's like a side-scrolling platformer, kind of like playing a Mario Brothers game, but you can, I think you get into like a hat and you can get into a plane and stuff like that. There's like vehicle-y type things you can get into. It's been a long time. I won this back in like 2014, guys. I need to play it again. Shit. Use the magic bag to create dozens of special items. That was what it was. Discover hidden bonus zones to collect massive points and super shortcuts. It's very colorful. I remember it being very enjoyable. I need to put more time into it, but there you go. Okay, moving on. Here's, you either love it or you hate it. I love it. And that's Fester's Quest, the Addams Family game. So licensed game, even though it's not technically a licensed game in name, it had to have been called probably Addams Family. Yeah, it would have. But Fester's Quest, whatever, spin-off. Sunsoft, in my eyes, back in the day, could do no wrong. I loved everything they did, mostly. This was one of those games that my father played more than I did. This was the game we got. This was the game we got with our Nintendo. I couldn't remember last time what we got other than Contra with our NES. This was the game we got along with it because I had played this at my buddy Gary's house and I thought it was pretty cool. So my parents bought it for me and my brother alongside our NES that Christmas. So we got NES, we got this, and we got Contra. Memories coming back. Yeah. It is a top-down Legend of Zelda-esque action game. You play as Fester. The entire or everyone else in the Addams family has been like kidnapped by aliens. So you have to go and rescue them, and you have to upgrade your weapons. But the thing that really sucks about this game, and I will admit it, is as you're collecting these power-ups and you're upgrading your weapon, if you get hit, your weapon goes down a level. And it just gets really freaking frustrating at times because some of the weapons don't just shoot straight ahead. They like curl and like do like these loops or, make a wave pattern, and they can get caught on the environment you're at. If you're next to a wall, that loop will stop once it hits that wall, and you might have like a group of enemies coming down at you, and you can't really do anything because you're in this tight space, and the weapon you're currently using, isn't hitting them, so you get killed a lot. And I remember my dad, I'd be like in the other room, and my dad would be in the bedroom playing this, and I hear him go like, "Motherfucker!" Stuff like that. But the music is absolutely fantastic. I love the graphics. I think it's just it's a very frustrating game at times, yes, I will admit. But I always had fun with it. And that's all that really matters now, isn't it? So, yeah. Classic game from my childhood. Absolutely had to get... When I got back into collecting, that was one of the first games I looked for. It was like that, Gremlins 2, Mario Brothers 2, the ones that I played the most when I was a kid. And then we come to Final Fantasy. the RPG that killed RPGs for me back in the day. Because, like I said, my buddy Gary figured he was going to sit there and play this while I sat there and just watched him like this, the entire game, this 100-hour game. No, not happening. Like I said, after about an hour or two of watching him play, I was like, I'm going to go home now. I'm like, I'm good. Another classic, JRPG, overworld, get into a fight, go into a side view type of situation here where you see your characters in your party and the enemies you're fighting. You have all your stats, your weapons, your magic, all that kind of stuff. Nothing crazy about this. I got this at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018, I think. And I had no intention of actually looking for a copy of this. I always said that if I found it, I beat this game eventually on the Game Boy Advance. I had the Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls cartridge, and I played through the original Final Fantasy because when I did end up playing this version of it, I wasn't big on it at all. For some reason, it just didn't click with me. But playing it on the Game Boy Advance, they had fixed and tweaked a few things. Therefore, it made it more fun for me to play. And I got into RPGs through playing that. I was like, I want more of this type of thing now. And at that point in time, the PlayStation 2 was the big console. So getting into these big, awesome, epic RPGs, although I had 9 other Final Fantasy games I needed to get through and to get to the current one, which is part 10 at the time. But yeah, like I said, I played through it on that Game Boy Advance version of this, and I really loved it. So I always said that since I'd already beaten this, it wasn't really a priority for my collection. If I found it cheap, I would get it. So I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic. It was the end of the last day of the convention. It was Sunday. I still had a bunch of money in my pocket, but I wasn't really looking for anything specific. I was just going through tables and did I miss anything? And then I found this one table where this guy was basically just throw me a number and we'll consider it. So I was going through and I was like, oh, there's a copy of Final Fantasy in here. Now let me check to see if it's complete. And it is. It has everything in here. The manual, the map, the cartridge looks fantastic. The box is really nice. It even came with this protector. And the guy was like, $60. And at the time, this was going for way more than that. And for $60, I was like, sold. Just give it to me. So super happy that I have this in my collection. I now have all of them, I think. Not the Famicom or Super Famicom versions, but I have one of every Final Fantasy game there is. And I need to play through that version of it just so I can say that I have the OG. So, let's see. I was talking about the Famicom games 2 streams ago, and one of my goals is to get all of the Hokuto no Ken games into my collection. Hokuto no Ken in America is known as the Fist of the North Star. Awesome anime, manga, movie. No, not the live action movie, no. The animated movie, yes. And have to get the American version. We only got, of the 4 Fist of the North Star games they got in Japan for the Famicom, we only got one of them. And they gave us the worst one. And the worst one was the original, the first one. So they gave us Fist of the North Star. And it's a side-scrolling platformer kind of beat 'em up. And it is not good. It's like your character moves way too fast. He jumps real quickly, and it's really awkward. Timing of things is weird. Like the hitboxes are not great. It just does not control very well. But it's still Fist of the North Star, even though it has been a little bit censored over here, because what's the big thing that happens in Fist of the North Star during a fight? Someone gets punched in the gut or something, or slapped upside the head, and then a part of their body explodes. And in the video games, it always seems to be heads. Like in the the Mark III version for the Master System, the Japanese Master System. It's like you punch somebody and their head goes and explodes. So none of that in here, but still Fist of the North Star, and I have to have it. So I now own 2 copies of this poopy game. This was one of the games I watched my buddy Gary play through back in the day. And that is Flying Dragon, The Secret Scroll. So this one was weird. So it is part side-scrolling beat-em-up and part one-on-one fighter. So you have to get to these tournaments. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a long time since I played this, but I remember certain things about it. You need to get to these tournaments, and you do a beat 'em up area to get there. And once you get there, the fighting gets real technical. If this is the one I'm thinking, I think this is that one where you'll be fighting a character and you'll be standing in like an arena, and like there'll be a circle that'll appear on like their head, their torso, or their legs, and that's where you need to hit them. And you only get a certain amount of time, like a certain window, to hit that part. And that's how you beat the character. And if you see one appear on your character, you have to like dodge and like jump back. And it's kind of cool that it got that technical. And I remember thinking that was really a neat way of doing that kind of thing. So it reminded me of like watching an old kung fu movie where, you know, the old Jackie Chan movies from like the 70s and 80s where the fights looked overly choreographed, where it was like punch and then they'd stop, and then they punch and then they'd stop, and then they punch and then they'd stop. You know, it's like they're trying to remember dance moves kind of thing. It kind of reminded me of that, so I thought that was kind of neat. But it was always pretty fun. Culture Brain released a bunch of games reminiscent of this. There's a sequel spin-off. Oh god, what's it called? It's like Flying Warriors or something, where they're like superhero versions of this character and stuff. It's pretty cool. I need to get that one also, even though I hear that one is not the greatest. Okay, another love it or hate it. You ready? I can hear that thunder, man. It is loud. Friday the 13th. We got that rainbow of awesomeness up here by LGN. Okay, so watched my friend Charlie play this, and I was like, okay, I had never seen a Friday the 13th movie at that point in time. I was not allowed to watch horror movies. I was aware of Friday the 13th as a property. I just had never seen any of the movies. So I knew about Jason. I knew who the killer was in the first movie before I even saw the damn movie. Everybody ruined that spoiler for me. But I remember watching him play this, and as he was playing it, I'm like, this isn't like the movies I've heard about. It's just all about like campers getting killed. Sure, it had campers in the game, and Jason is trying to kill said campers, but why are there zombies? Why are there like killer bats and stuff like that running around? Why is there like fish trying to kill you when you're in the boat? I don't get it. Once I saw the movies, I was like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. The game basically captures what a Friday the 13th movie is. You're playing as the campers and you're trying to kill Jason before he kills you. And he kills all the kids, which is another really cruel thing this game does, is it actually has like the amount of kids that are in the camp, and as Jason kills them, you just see their heads start disappearing from the tally, which is kind of gruesome. But nowadays, I love this game. I think it's pretty fantastic. The map situation is a little strange. I'm not big on that, and that's about it. But I love the way it works, and like the weapons, and then going to find Jason's mother's sweater and fighting her severed head, which makes no sense. Is this a Lucio Fulci movie? Or a game based on a Lucio Fulci movie? But I love like fighting Jason in the cabins and stuff like that, and swapping weapons between all the counselors. And obviously there's a couple of counselors. Like all of them have kind of different attributes. I think there's 6, and 2, there's like a male and a female version that share attributes. And there's like certain ones you want to use and certain ones you don't, because some of them just absolutely like are slow, don't jump very high kind of thing. But I do find this game super fun nowadays, and I consider it like one of those hidden gem type games. I hate that term, hidden gem. Diamond in the rough is the one I always use. Like a diamond in the rough type of game, even though everybody knows about this game. So it's not really a diamond in the rough then, is it? But I don't care. Love the movies. Oh, well, I love some of the movies. That one's not really based on any specific one in the series. It basically takes most things from part 2, I guess, with the kids. Kids don't actually show up in the movies until part 6, like the actual kids at the summer camp. So it's got stuff from part 2 and stuff from part 6 in it. I wish we had stuff from part 7 where you had a psychic girl that could use her telekinesis powers to fight Jason. That would have been rad as hell. Why couldn't they put her in the other Friday the 13th game that came out for like the PS4 and all that? That would have been rad as hell. Next up, we've got a twofer. We got that G.I. Joe and the sequel, G.I. Joe, The Atlantis Factor. So last stream, I was talking about Captain America and the Avengers. I don't remember the name of the developer of that game, but it's the same people that made these 2 games. And the weird thing is all of these games were released by different companies. So you have... Who was Captain America? Was it Data East? Captain America and the Avengers are released by Data East. The first G.I. Joe game is released by Taxon, and the second one is released by Capcom. But they're all made by the same developer, and they all play basically the same. Not a bad thing. Yeah, but I talked about G.I. Joe in my licensed 31 Days of Licensed Games series. This was my favorite video game based on a toy line. It is super fun. It's a side-scrolling run and gun. There's like puzzle elements and stuff like that too. There's some vehicle stuff you can do, but you have all these different Joe characters you can choose from for each stage. You have Roadblock, I remember. You have Snake Eyes. I think Duke. I think you unlock Falcon at one point. And you are going through these stages. You'll eventually get to a boss, which is usually one of the Cobra vehicles from the toy line, which is always kind of cool. And there's always some weird tasks you have to do in some of them. I think they come in they come in like groups of 3. So it's like 3 stages, make up a level, beat a boss. And usually have to do like some sort of a bomb. Plant bombs all over this stage. There's like a check mark on the wall or an X. And you have to plant a bomb on the wall in that area, and you have to find all the little areas where they've been pre-marked. And even the run and gun sections are really fun. And then there's levels where you'll actually find vehicles from Cobra. Like there's that one circular saw one that you sit inside, and it's really, really cool. If you love the toy line, this game is like right up your alley. Everything that you remember from the toy line and the cartoon is in here at some point. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time playing the sequel, though. I got both of these at the very first Midwest Gaming Classic I ever went to, and I think that was in 2015. I bought them at the same time. But this plays almost exactly the same. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time in it, but I'm hoping it's just as good as the original. It looks exactly the same. I'm hoping Serpentor is in there. Please tell me Serpentor is in there. Or Cobra. La, 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 la. I don't hit those high notes. This was one of those Holy Grail games of mine that I picked up at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think in 2019 was when I got this. And I bartered. I didn't barter. I bargained with the guy. I talked him down from the price he wanted for this by about $40, which I was surprised. Turns out the guy that I bought games from at Mo GameCon a few weeks back was the guy that I bought this from. And that's why I think he's willing to bargain, but nobody seems to want to do it with him. But every time I see him, I do it. And I usually get pretty decent price because the game I got from him at Mo GameCon, I got him to talk him down, I think, $20. But we're talking Gargoyle's Quest 2. I have the original for the Game Boy and the follow-up for the Super Nintendo. It is a platformer and kind of an RPG. There's two. Okay, so the original game is basically just a platformer, the one on the Game Boy, where you're playing as Firebrand, who is that son of a bitch devil that everybody hates from Ghosts and Goblins. Why of all the characters in those games did Capcom say, yes, him, let's give him the spinoff? Whatever. It worked. I'm not complaining now. But it didn't appeal to me back when these were first available. Like when the Game Boy game came out, I was like, no, I'm not playing that. Game Chasers movie, I don't know them well enough to want to watch the movie, so probably not going to be something I watch. But how you doing, Pat? So yeah, the original game and this game and Demon's Crest were something I was not even interested in back when they were relevant. Nowadays, yes, because I ended up getting a copy of the original game on the Game Boy, and what I played of it I really, really liked, so I needed to get the follow-ups. And like I said, I talked that dude down a lot. But the thing about this is it's not only a platformer in the vein of the Game Boy game, but there's also like an overworld, and you have to go and talk to people and get items and stuff like that, and it's like an RPG, which I thought was pretty cool. When I brought this home from the convention and I checked it out to make sure it worked, I was supremely happy. I was like, they did something different. I really like it. The first thing you do is you go and talk to the final boss from the original Ghosts and Goblins. He's like the king on a throne of like the demon world or whatever. And you walk up to him and he's just kind of like, yeah, go out and kill things. I was like, this is kind of rad. So I'm super happy that I was able to get this. It's a super fun game. I need to beat the first one so I can play through that. Here we got another twofer. We got the OG Gauntlet and the follow-up Gauntlet 2. There are 4 games in the mainline series. So there's the first one, there's the second one, there's one called the Third Encounter that's available on the Lynx, and then there's the 4th one on the Genesis. I have all 4 of them, which is I'm super happy about, because Gauntlet was like one of those arcade games. I talked about this in my top 10 NES game video that I did. That was like a response to a Captain Algebra video. that like I put Gauntlet, I think, in the 10 spot, because every time I would see an arcade cabinet of this, didn't matter where I was like, I have a quarter ready, let's go. Every time I would go to Six Flags in Illinois, it's called Great America, there was arcades all over that theme park. And whenever I would see one, I would be like, hang on, I'll be right back. And I would go in there, and sure enough, hey, look, there's a Gauntlet. I got to play it. I loved it so much. First dungeon crawler I ever played, and now you know why I love dungeon crawlers so much is because of Gauntlet. But it is a very dumbed down port of the arcade game. It doesn't look or sound or feel like the original, but it is what it is. And I am thankful that I at least got something on a home console. I mean, don't get me wrong, it plays exactly the same. It just doesn't look or sound like it at all. There's a little bit of voice, but like the graphics look like shit. But it's Gauntlet, and I'm super happy. Sad thing is, I really wanted to get that weird shaped Tengen cart version, but I couldn't find one at the time when I was looking for this, so I ended up getting just the one that looks like a standard NES cart. But whatevs. Yeah, I probably could have funded my first year of college with the amount of quarters I spent on Gauntlet back in the day. Same with Mortal Kombat 2. The amount of time I spent ditching college to play Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcade, I probably could have I probably could have funded college for like a whole year and a half, 2 years. Then we got the sequel, which the one thing that I don't like about this is that this is only for 2 players. And the arcade game had 4. You had the warrior, the Valkyrie, the archer, the elf, and the wizard. And you could play 4 players at the same time in the arcade. That one didn't allow you to do that. But part 2 did if you had the 4 score. Hey, Pat, maybe next year at Mo GameCon, we should play some of this. See how that goes. We played Nightmare on Elm Street 4-player. Maybe we should all play this one now. Yeah, the whole series. Yeah, the third one on the Lynx, holy crap. What you have to do to play that game on the Lynx is kind of awesome. 4 score, baby, yeah. So I've never actually played this version of it 4-player. I would absolutely love to. We're definitely going to... I'm going to try to get that to happen at next year's Mo GameCon. But it's more of the same, even though this is by Mindscape, which is my, video game... angry video game nerd hates LJN. Michael B. the Game Genie hates Acclaim. I hate Mindscape. But this is one of the few games I was willing to give them benefit of the doubt for because it's freaking Gauntlet. Come on. And it actually is a better game than the first, as far as I'm concerned. But I have more memories of playing the first one than this. So that's why the first game was on my top 10 NES games list. But I need to play this 4-player. Absolutely. Absolutely. Advantage joystick? Yeah. Yes. I remember playing it with our Advantage before my brother threw it up against the wall and broke it. Because he had a temper when it came to video games. Just talking about Gargoyle's Quest 2 and Firebrand coming from Ghosts and Goblins. Well, guess what? Ghosts and Goblins. Another one, I was super lucky because I got this off of I got this off of Facebook. I got this from that dude that I bought Dino Wars from. Like I said in the last stream, every one of these old Capcom NES games had like a hang tab built into the box itself, and you can see it. Every one of the ones I have that has that hang tab, it has never been punched. I am so happy that that is not a thing anymore. Don't destroy the boxes, people. Don't. But yeah, this game is super freaking hard, and I understand why Captain Algebra hates it. I understand why a lot of people hate it. I have a problem with this game as well, because like I've said, I'm not very good at old retro games. So I have particular issue with playing through this one. But I do appreciate it for what it is. And it is a horror-themed action game, and I absolutely love that. Could the game have been better? Yes. Luckily, we did get better ports of the arcade game and the sequel on other consoles. So, yay. But yeah, this one is super freaking hard. Now we have God, I almost said Gauntlet again. I got Gauntlet on the brain, y'all, and that lightning is getting loud as shit. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. We got Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. Yeah, it's super tough. Yeah, it's one of those games that I like rage quit a lot, but I keep coming back to it because memories. Had this back in the day. This was one of the games. I think we got this for Easter. one year from our parents, my brother and I. And I think my brother got it, but I ended up playing it more than him because more often than not, like my brother didn't realize that he wasn't a gamer until much later in his life. So like we got the NES, we had the Atari 2600, we got the NES. He wanted a Genesis of his own, and he got it, but I had to go and buy my own Super Nintendo because favoritism. But he just would always get a game or want a game. He would play it for a day and be like, yeah, I'm done with it. And then I would be the one to play it. So I ended up playing through this game. I nearly beat it. This was one of those games that I was actually not too bad at back in the day. And I always would get super close and then get killed and couldn't continue anymore. Thanks, dude. I'll talk to you later, Captain Foley. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, it's weird. It's like part board game and part side-scrolling beat 'em up, I guess. So every stage is like a hexagonal board game stage kind of thing. I don't know how to describe it. You have your enemies at the bottom, and everyone takes turns moving. And every time you take a space, you have to like fight over that space, regardless of if there is an enemy there or not. You have to take that space by playing a side-scrolling stage in order to defeat it, and therefore you can move on from there. If you die during that battle, I think if I remember correctly, you go back to where you were. You have to try again. In the meantime, the villains are moving up the stage towards you. And the more powerful you get by beating all these other stages means you're probably going to have a better time or an easier time beating that boss at the end when you do eventually fight them. A lot of the enemies from the movies are here. You can play as either Godzilla or Mothra. That's always pretty cool because Mothra I loved. King Ghidorah, Gigan, all of those are in here at some point. I love it, even though a lot of people rag on this game and shit all over it. I have a soft spot for it because this is what got me into the Godzilla movies. I never had watched a Godzilla movie before playing this. And because I liked this game so much back in the day, I started watching them on Sunday afternoon, like things on television, like when they would show them. So, yeah. There's a sequel to that I think plays completely different, which I've never played, but it's super expensive, so I'm probably never going to be able to own that, sadly. So now we have Golgo 13. Nobody knows what to call this damn game. Is it Golgo 13? Is it Top Secret Episode? No. On the sides, it says it's Golgo 13. Therefore, I call it Golgo 13. I did not know that this was based on a animated movie and a manga. I saw the movie of this, the animated one, years later when anime started becoming a thing in the early 90s. And this is also one of those games, just like Bionic Commando that I talked about last time, where, everybody knew Nintendo had this like standards kind of thing going on where there was like no sex, no ultra violence, no religious themes or anything like that in your games. Got Golgo 13. Yeah, I love this game because this was one of those ones that I think slipped by Nintendo censors because there's a freaking sex scene in this game. Multiple ones. You don't really see anything, but you know exactly what the hell's going on. Duke Togo's getting some ass. And they glorify it. I love this game. It is graphically not good. The side-scrolling, like, beat-em-up shooter levels that you participate in, they control really wonky, and, like, your character moves too fast. Like, when he does his jump kick, it's like, boop, boop, boop. It's really weird. When you're using a gun, it's okay. But then you do like a gallery shooting type levels and stuff like that. There's a bunch of parts where you're a sniper, which is really rad, where you're looking through the scope, which is awesome. There's a couple of levels where you're underwater. You do like a bunch of like down here. You can see this is like one of the areas where you go and see a snitch or a contact or something, and you talk to them, and you eventually like start romancing some of your contacts and. They do the do. I remember the first time I saw this, my buddy Gary was playing this, and he beat it in one sitting. I watched him complete it from beginning to end in one afternoon. And like when that first sex scene happened, I remember I just looked at him and was like, is this for real? Like, is this actually in the game? He's like, yep. Surprised the crap out of me. I was not prepared for that. So here's a repro, the first repro I ever bought when I got back into collecting in 2013, and it's from Time Walk Games, which was like the premier repro place at the time. They did super great work. One thing I didn't like that they did, I'll talk about in a minute. But the thing that really ticked me off about them was they had a ton of stuff on their website that I was like, I want that, I want that, I want that one and that, and two of that kind of thing. And I was preparing to, like, every paycheck, I was going to buy at least one of the games off of these guys. I managed to buy 3 games from them, and then they shut down completely. They took their website down, and they're like, yeah, the amount of orders that are coming in, we're just like 3 guys or something that work at a store, like a video game store, and we're doing these in our free time. We're spending so much time making these repros that we don't have any time to spend with our families, so we're calling it quits. And I was like, you sons of bitches, why did you breed? I want these games. But I understand where they're coming from. So the first one I bought from them was The Goonies. If you remember back in the day, we got The Goonies 2 on the NES, and a lot of people were like, where's the first game? Well, they got it in Japan. We never got it over here. I, on the other hand, remember playing the original Goonies game in a Play Choice 10 when I went on my junior high Washington, D.C. trip. Was it Washington? No, Springfield trip. We went to Springfield, Illinois for like the weekend. And the hotel we were staying in had a pool in like the rec area or whatever. And everybody went down there, to swim that night. And they had an arcade surrounding the pool, which now that I think about it was not the safest thing because I'm literally, the arcade games were surrounding the pool. All someone had to do was push one of those bitches over, and you got First of Fried dead kids in that pool. But they had like a Play Choice 10, and the Goonies was in there. And I remember playing it going, I've played part 2 at my friend's house. What the hell is this? Not realizing that, we never got it over here. So what it is basically the side-scrolling stages from Goonies 2 without any of the doorways and trying to map all this garbage out. It's like a platformer action game. And it's actually really fun. I absolutely had to have this because of that memory of playing it at that hotel. And I didn't want to buy the original Japanese one because I didn't know if there was anything in here that was going to require translation. So the thing about Time Walk is this is one of those repro companies that use like really thick cardstock for the boxes when they were making these. I'm not complaining. They still fit inside the protector. You also get a manual, which is pretty cool. Very reminiscent of the ones you used to get from Konami. I love how they tried to reproduce the look of a Konami game over here. The thing I don't like that they did, it's still there after all these years. I bought this in 2024, like early 2014, like January or February 2014. It's still there. So they were using donor carts to make these things instead of buying like blank carts that they could use from some manufacturer somewhere. They were actually like taking like Super Mario Track or what was it? Super Mario Kart. I can't freaking talk, and my nose is getting stuffed because I'm talking so much. They were taking like Super Mario Brothers carts and Duck Hunt and repurposing them, which is not a good thing. So in order to make their stuff look different from everyone else's, they would spray paint every one of the carts before they would use it. And you can tell it's spray paint because I can still smell it on this bitch. Every one of these that I got in the mail, I would open up the package to play it, and it would like be punched in the face by like the fumes of spray paint. I was like, dudes, just stop. What are you doing this for? That serves zero purpose. Just use what you got. If the cart is a little scuffed up, who cares? Like, I don't want to be inhaling this shit. And it stank up the place, too. When these carts would be, like, I'd be playing them in my Nintendo, like, you could smell it throughout the room. It was that strong. It was, I don't understand that at all. I understand, like, the one you'll see probably in 2 streams from now that I got for the NES. They did it to make it look like a horror game. They painted it red. But this and the Super Nintendo one that I have, like, they painted it just a slightly darker shade of gray, and it makes zero sense why they would do that. The Goonies 2 NES got an autograph when I met the actor that played Chunk. Oh, that's awesome. Sean Astin, I've seen at conventions in the area here. I've never actually like gotten anything autographed because I'm not really into that kind of thing, but My brother worked with him on a movie. My brother works in Hollywood, or worked in Hollywood. And my brother was the first AD for, what was it, Cabin Fever 0. And if you look in the credits, you'll see Daniel J. Pico as the first AD. And Sean Astin was like the big star in the movie. My brother did not have fond stories of that guy. He said he was kind of a dick. But whatever. But gotta have Goonies 2. Absolute classic. I watched my buddy Gary play through this in one afternoon also. And this was one of those games that, like, just every time I would try to play, because I ended up getting a copy of this discounted at KB Toys. I eventually bought this on a clearance at my local store with my lunch money. And I was like, oh, Gary made it look so easy. Well, Gary probably had a photographic memory and can, he memorized every single door he needed to go through and what led to what. Me, on the other hand, I needed that giant NES manual. I can't remember what it was called, like the player's guide or whatever, that had like a bunch of different games like mapped out for you in it. I needed that to just get through any of this game because it was so complicated. But it's a side-scrolling platformer, tons of exploration required. There's underwater stages and stuff. You're trying to save a mermaid. Okay. Think they make it about treasure again, but no. You're trying to save a captured mermaid and rescue all your kidnapped Goonie friends from the Fratellis. And it's very complicated, and like you need graph paper and stuff. It is crazy. I'm not super fond of the game, but like I have like nostalgia for it. Not only because I love the movie, but because of, as a child playing it all the time and watching my friend play through it. But this was one of the earlier games that we got when we finally did get an NES in '89. So I think this came out in 1990. Yeah. But Gremlins 2, one of my all-time favorite games on the NES. I talked about this in my top 10 NES games. So back in the day, licensed games had a terrible reputation, partially because of E.T. on the 2600. Kind of started it off. Licensed games weren't always considered to be horribly bad at some point back in the day. But like after E.T., they kind of like went, like the reputation just went down the crapper. All of a sudden, everybody was like, I'm not buying that game. It's licensed. F that. Some companies doubled down, like LJN doubled down on it. Ocean doubled down on that kind of stuff. Sunsoft did a lot of those. But I loved the movie that this game is based on. So I was like, of course, go to KB, or what was it? Toys R Us with my grandmother. One Christmas when we're visiting. She's like, one game for each of you for me and my brother for Christmas. Pick one. And I picked Gremlins 2. And I was super happy that I did because this game is fantastic. It's a top-down action game, like a 3/4 review, where you play as Gizmo. You're going through Clamp Tower. Every stage, you get a different kind of a weapon to upgrade. You start off with tomatoes. You're throwing tomatoes. Other than the vegetable gremlin, I don't remember any tomatoes being in the movie, but whatever. So you throw tomatoes, and you get like a paper clip, and then you get like a pencil, I think. They get crazier and crazier. Eventually, you're freaking Gizmo Rambo at the end. But it's super fun. All the gremlins from the movie, the cutscenes play out exactly like the movie did. The music, as Happy Beard is saying down there, is absolutely a banger. Absolutely love it. The graphics are really cool. I absolutely love this game. I played through this so many times. This was one of those games that I actually managed to beat back in the day. And I beat it over and over and over again. I make it sound like I'm jerking off or something, but no. Playing games. I need to blow my nose real quick, guys. I'm going to turn the microphone off. So I turn my microphone off, and then I say, enjoy my shirt. Never said I was smart. Now we got the Guardian Legend. I watched my buddy Charlie play through this. He had a pretty decent NES collection when we were in junior high. And I remember I went over to his place one day, and he was playing this, and I watched him play it for a little while, and I was like, that looked kind of cool. He was pretty good at it. But I never ended up getting a copy of this of my own. I just never really thought about it. I never saw it clearance or anything like that, so I never owned it until I got back into collecting now. So I remember how much I enjoyed watching Charlie play this, and I hear people talking it up a lot nowadays too. So I eventually went and got a copy of this off of eBay. And I got it really cheap because there's a freaking label on the front, but I don't care. I just wanted the box and the manual and the game to be able to play. And the game is kind of cool. I got this for my backlog roulette on the podcast that I do with Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming, the Super Neva brothers. And this was my backlog roulette game that I got, and I ended up playing pretty far through it. I didn't beat it, but I got really decently far into it. And it's another one of those games that's like two different kind of games in one. So you've got these Legend of Zelda style adventure areas where you're going through like this base, and you're trying to get new weapons and stuff like that, and then find these exits that'll take you to a shooter level, and it turns into a vertically scrolling shmup. And those sections are, at the beginning, they're easy as hell, but man, they get tough so quick. And if I remember correctly, you're like trying to find these like symbols hidden in blocks and stuff like that. I need to actually finish playing through it, but I had a good time playing this. I need to finish it off, but I never beat it before the next episode of the podcast, so I never went back to play it. I was stuck playing a new game for the roulette, so I need to go back and finish this one off. But it's super cool. Captain Algebra beat it on stream like 2 years ago, I want to say. And while I was playing that for the podcast, he kept on texting me, asking me what I thought of it, because he really enjoyed it. I think it took him like 2 streams to beat it. I'm getting super clogged for some reason. I don't understand why. Next up is Heavy Barrel, Data East, like a Contra style, what is it called? A running gun. Haven't played a whole lot of this one. It's based on an arcade game. I watched Captain Algebra play it on stream one day, and I was like, I'm glad I own that one because that looks super fun. But I got this like dirt cheap off of eBay, and I just kind of tested it to make sure it worked when it showed up, and then threw it on the shelf and haven't gone back to it. But I really need to do so because it looks super cool. All these games, I'm like reminding me that I need to go back and play these. One of my goals I've brought up many, many times is that I'm trying to get all the Rare games by Rare. Rare is my favorite developer. And like I keep on finding new games that I had no clue were developed by Rare in like the NES collection. Maybe if I did a search on the interwebs, I could put a list together and know what to look for. But hey, sometimes it's just all about the surprise of learning about something you didn't know about. So one of my favorite NES games is Pinbot. I put that in my top 10 NES games list. Pretty high on the list, too, because that was probably one of the games I played the absolute most back in the day when the NES was a thing. Loved it. Video pinball is like one of my favorite things to do. And I was always sad that they never released the follow-up because Pinbot was based on an actual pinball cabinet or pinball table. They made a sequel to that called Bride of Pinbot, and they never made a video game version of it. I was really sad. Well, turns out that wasn't the last pinball game that Rare worked on because Rare developed Pinbot. They did one called High Speed. And you can see right at the top, Rare. So I had no clue that they did another pinball table game. And it plays exactly the same as Pinbot does, where the flippers are always on the screen. The game actually follows the ball, and it scrolls to follow the ball, but the screen splits at the bottom of the screen to always show you the flippers at the bottom of the table so that when the ball actually comes back down, you know where it's headed. You know what direction the ball is going and which bumper it's heading for, which is pretty awesome that they did that. And that's probably one of the reasons why I like Pinbot so much because no other pinball game was really doing that. So absolutely had to have this once I learned that Rare had developed it. And yeah, it is super fun. Based on a real pinball table I've never actually heard of, though. I've never heard of High Speed. I've never actually seen a pinball table called this. Fx3 Pinball, which one is that one of the ones with the movie screen in it and that kind of thing that's real popular now? I played the Halloween one, if that's what you're talking about. So I need to get something special off the shelf. I'll be back in a sec. Come here. So this is an official repro, not like something that someone threw apart or put together in their basement. So this is from Retrobit. They got licenses to a bunch of like IREM games that were really expensive or never were released over here. They did ones for like R-Type 3 and like the Joe and Mack games and stuff, which to me makes no sense. But they did this one, and it's a game that I've always wanted to own. I almost bought a legit Japanese version of it, but when I heard this was coming out, I held off and I got this like limited edition, I guess is what it is, the collector's edition of it. And that's Holy Diver. Yes, this is actually based off of a Dio song. Yep. So it's a legendarily super hard side-scrolling platformer type of game where you're playing as like this magician type character. I guess he's the Holy Diver. And you have magic powers that cost points when you use them. And you're always like in search of points because you have no choice but to spam like your powers to get through these stages because they're very unfair. I will say they are very unfair. The repro comes with it came in a couple of different variants of cart, and I ended up getting the white variant and a really cool manual that's actually vertical instead of horizontal, but it's full color. And it's still in Japanese. Oh, half of it's in Japanese, and then the first half of it is in English, and then the second half is the exact same manual all over again, just in the original Japanese. That's kind of cool. I did not realize that when I got it. But yeah, this game is very unfair, which is why it's considered one of the hardest games on the NES. I was watching Megadan, and Megadan is like a god when it comes to like no death running games. He was even struggling playing this, which kind of surprised me because he is like one of the best gamers I think I've seen. I tried to play this. I had to bust out my OG NES because this will not play on my Retro Freak. Usually if it's a repro of an existing game that came out in Japan, my Retro Freak will play it. I don't know what Retrobit did when they ported it over, but the cartridge will not get recognized by my Retro Freak for some reason. But the collector's edition that I bought came in this huge ass embossed box with some foil for the title, and it comes with a whole bunch of like tchotchkes and stuff. Yeah, I love Dio too, dude. I was super sad when he died. Comes with this like diary, I guess. Like I'm ever going to use this. It's officially part of this collection. Why would I ever use this to is it a dream log? It's kind of dumb. Yeah, I'm never going to touch that. Comes with a Castlemania sticker because I bought it through Castlemania Games, but Retrobit, or what is it? Yeah, Retrobit is the company that put it together. Comes with this envelope called Power Ups. Comes with an authentic certificate or a certificate of authenticity. So they only made 1,000 of these collector's editions, and I got number 282 out of 1,000. What? Why do I have 2 of these? Oh, I'm in the first 1,000 club. And then I guess the production of the actual cartridge was 2009 out of 2,900. That's strange. It also comes with this like Holy Diver postcard. Another postcard. That artwork is pretty rad. Looks like a fucking metal cover, doesn't it? A bunch of stickers I'm never going to use. And then it also has this weirdness. So inside here it has this button of Holy Diver, which I'm never going to use, and this fig pin of the main character, which I'm never going to touch. But I needed to get this because like I said, I've been trying so long to get a copy of this, like a legit copy. And then when this Americanized, translated version of it came out, and it was considered an official repro, I was like, sure, why not? I'll do that. And then I played the game, and I'm like, oh, it's so hard. Why are you doing this to me? Now to put this damn thing back together. There you go. All this stuff goes back in this envelope. So how's everybody doing tonight? Who's in the stream? I know we got Kevin from Happy Beard Games. We got Pat from Show Me Retro. GWN, you still here? Is Peter here? If not, this is probably one of the first one of these streams Peter's ever missed. Captain Foley had to step out. Okay, there we go. Boom. Yeah, sorry it takes so long to put this back together, but it's kind of shitty the way it's designed. Let's put that there. Yep. And the thing is, you can see back here, I have all of my games on my shelf stored by the top label. You got the box, but I have it like this is the side that's showing, so to save some room. Yeah, there is nothing on the Holy Diver. It's just a symbol. So yeah, okay. Thanks. Next up, we've got I never played this back in the day. I love the movie. You know me, license whore. So I had to get a copy of this, and I don't think it's not good, but it's not terrible. The one on the Super Nintendo is the one that's like, but this one is kind of decent for what it is. It's The Hunt for Red October. I love this movie. I absolutely love it. The game itself is like a side-scrolling, like a horizontally scrolling shmup, but you're in a sub underwater. So it's basically the precursor to In the Hunt. If you've ever played that game is fantastic. The game is not, like I said, not great, but it's there. It could have gone in a completely different direction, like the Super Nintendo version did, which is god awful as far as I'm concerned. I will never own that one. But this one I think is kind of interesting because it's instead of being like a periscopy, like I always assumed it was going to be like a periscope type game. Kind of like playing Battle Tank or what was that called? Or yeah, Battle Tank or Battle Zone in the arcade, just with a submarine. But no, it's a side-scrolling shmup. Okay. I don't think it's terrible. On the other hand, we got Highlight, which I don't know why there's multiple games in this series, but they all get crapped on as being like the worst in the genre, RPG type games. And yeah, I got this dirt cheap off my buddy Felix the Brat from, was it Batter Rad's Nerd Emporium, I think is the name of his group on Facebook. He talks to me all the time. He has like a game store in a swap meet or like a flea market on the weekends. And like if he gets stuff in that he knows I'm interested in, he'll let me know. And I get great deals from the guy. And like he sent me a picture of like a whole stack of NES games that he got in box. And he was like, any of these interest you? And I was like, yeah, I'll take that, and that. And this was one of them. And what I understand, this is a completely craptastic RPG. I guess it's trying to be like Ys. There's no real battle system from what I understand. Like in Final Fantasy, you get into a fight and you go to like that side view thing where you see your characters and all that. This is just like you hit your character or you hit the enemy. It's not great. Is the GOAT clearly? How's it going, VGM? Yeah, here the one I was trying so hard to get the one on the Saturn was that Virtual Highlight because I heard that it's like one of the worst games ever made, and I actually had to experience for myself. My buddy Movie Tom sells his stuff on what's it called? What app or whatnot? I think it is the auctioning app. And he was selling a copy of it, and I was really trying to get that copy from him, but someone outbid me. There's another classic. You got Kung Fu, one of the Black Label games, called Kung Fu Master in the arcade. This is actually a game by IREM, but Nintendo licensed it from IREM so they could have like a bunch of games for launch for the NES, and this was one of them. But this is like one of the most common games amongst my friends that everybody had a copy of this when I was a kid. So whenever I go to, no matter whose house I went to, this was always a choice. Hey, what do you want to play? I know Kung Fu. Let's try that. Maybe we can beat it today. Really, really simple. You just play as a guy that punches and kicks and can jump, and you're just going through 5 levels of this building trying to rescue your girlfriend. And the enemies get harder and harder to take out as you go. And you fight a boss before you ascend a level. Nothing really complicated. Loved it in the arcade. I remember playing this in the arcade also. But spent way more time playing the home version. It's fun. I wonder if... Is there like a port of the actual arcade game in a collection somewhere for another console? I'd be interested in playing that again. How you doing, Davis? So this one... So I used to go to Gen Con all the time. Starting in, I think it was 2009. The first year I lived in this apartment. The first year when I moved in here. My friends and I decided to check out Gen Con because we started getting to playing board games and card games and stuff like that, and that's what that convention is. It's all about tabletop RPGs, board games and card games and stuff like that. So we went to check it out one year, and it became like our yearly tradition is to go to Gen Con. And I stopped going when I started getting into video games because I live by myself. There's, board games require you to have more players, other than one person. And not a lot of them can be played solitaire. So I started to get out of them and into the video games more. So I stopped going. But one time when I was into the video game collecting, I went to Gen Con just to go and hang out with my friends for a few days. And there's an auction house at Gen Con where if you want to sell stuff, you can bring it to this auction that Gen Con provides, and you pay a small fee, and they will auction off these things that you sell. Like that year that I found all this stuff, I auctioned off a whole shitload of board games I wanted to get rid of and stuff, and I made a mint. I made a lot of money. But you can either auction them off, or they have a consignment store attached to the auction house where you can just throw everything in there. Instead of putting it up for auction, just have it up for sale. There's a price tag on it. People can go in there, browse, buy whatever they want. You can also have it set up so if something that you put up for auction doesn't actually sell in the auction, it'll go into the consignment store afterwards. So every single day, I would go into that consignment store to see what was going on. And I would always find video games every single time I would go in there. Different ones that are being auctioned off, or new people would show up and say, I wanted to put this in the consignment store for me, please. So I found a bunch of NES games there. I found a bunch of Atari games, a bunch of PlayStation 2 games. I found Sega CD games. What's up, Peter? Oh, man. Well, tell her I say congratulations. I'm just glad you're here, dude. So one year, the first year that I went to this auction or this consignment store every single day, the first time I went in there, the first day, so that was Thursday, I found The Last Starfighter, complete in the box, and another game you'll see in another stream, probably 2 streams from now. This is not good because, oh, look, it's Mindscape, the company that I absolutely despise. This is actually a computer game. I think it was a Commodore 64 game called like Iridion or something like that. And they basically did a pixel swap and changed the ship that you're playing as in that game, because it is it's kind of like playing Defender, but it's looking down. You're always looking down at the top of your ship. But it plays like Defender because you can turn around and go back and forth in these shooter levels. They just changed the ship that you're playing as in the computer game and made it look like the Gunstar from Last Starfighter. This game is terrible. God awful. But I got this for like $15 and I wasn't going to turn it down because I love the movie and, my license games. And you can see how it looks. It's like you're always looking down at the tops of the ships that you're fighting over. It's not good. Thing is, when I bought this, there was a little extra inside. So I bought this and the other NES game I'm going to talk about in a couple of streams. And after I bought these, my friends and I went to go and eat at a Johnny Rockets in this connecting mall to the convention. It's connected to the convention center. They had like a food court at this mall. So we went there and we're eating dinner at this Johnny Rockets. And I was checking these out to make sure that everything was in really good condition. So I opened this one up and I found an extra manual inside for a completely different game. The manual for Last Starfighter is in here, or was in here. But there was an extra manual for a totally different game. And that night, in my hotel room, I was like, well, I got the manual. I liked the game. I remember I had fond memories of the game, even though I know a lot of people hated it. But, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should look for a copy of it that is missing the manual. So that night in my hotel room, I went on eBay and I found a copy of that game with the box and the cartridge, but no manual. And I bought it for like $20 and made it complete. So I'll talk about that one. I screwed up. I'm in the wrong stack. So I should have talked about that game already. Well, we'll continue after this, and because I'm a dum-dum, and I'm going to grab it from the wrong stack. I'm going out of order. Well, poopies. This game is not good. Damn it, Chris. You are super dumb sometimes. Luckily, I didn't get far. Yeah, I was only 2 games into that stack, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so it should have gone from Halide to ice hockey. So before the Midwest Gaming Classic 2018, I think it was 2018, Musty Hobbit, who doesn't stream anymore, had been streaming Blades of Steel, and I was watching him play, and I was like, I remember I used to love this damn game. Yeah, I missed it. Yep. I never said I was smart. I've said that multiple times tonight. It's mostly because I'm tired as hell. Because, yeah, my job, last couple days, it's been kind of rough at my job. So, yeah, I'm coming home completely exhausted, and now I got to talk for 2 hours. But it's fun, so I do it. Yeah, he streamed Blades of Steel one night, and I was like, I used to love that game back in the day. I should probably look for a copy of that at Midwest Gaming Classic, which was happening in like 2 weeks from that point. So we get to Midwest Gaming Classic, and I go to this one seller in the vendor hall, and he had this right next to Blades of Steel. I talked about this when I talked about Blades of Steel last time. And I was like, ooh, which one do I get? Because I still remember playing ice hockey all the time back in the day, too. Because out of all the sports available in video game form, hockey is probably the one that I would actually go for over all the others. I would only buy hockey games in video game form. Super Blood Hockey, is that the one that's on the Switch? I need to get a copy of that. That's Willingham. What's his name? Not Travis Willingham. That's the guy from Critical Role. Shit. I can't remember his name. He's in the video game bullshit podcast or whatever it's called. I can't remember his name. I've met him at Midwest Gaming Classic countless times. The guy's a good guy. So they had this right next to Blades of Steel. This was cheaper than Blades of Steel. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just get ice hockey because, Blades of Steel, I can get that anywhere. I made a mistake. I should have bought Blades of Steel because this does not hold up for me. It's super archaic. It's super simple. Yeah, I'm not real big fan of it. I played this for like maybe 45 minutes when I got home from the convention to make sure the cartridge worked. And I was like, yeah, I made a mistake. I should have just gotten Blades of Steel like I had planned to, but whatever. A friend of mine, Brian from this band called the Gothsicles. His band is called the Gothsicles. He actually performed at November's Midwest Gaming Classic at the after party. I got him hooked up with the guy who runs the convention because they're looking for bands all the time to perform at the convention. Because usually in the vendors hall, they will have a band playing in the back. So there's live music playing in the vendors hall while people are shopping. I thought that was what the plan was in 2020, and then the convention got canceled because of COVID. But Dan, the guy that runs the convention, remembered Brian and brought him back for last year's convention in November, and he played the after party. I ran into him there. He looked like the character from Death Stranding because he had all of his DJ equipment strapped to his back. He looked like the main character from Death Stranding. He looked at. I walked up to him and I was like, "I'm going to put a bag on top of your big ass backpack. Hey, can you hold on to this for me and maybe deliver it to my hotel room?" He made a song about this game. He sings about video games. That's why he was able to get a job playing at the convention. He made a song about this game called Two Fat Guys. And if you guys want, I will put the link in these chats so you guys can go and check it out. The song is super funny, and the riff is super catchy. Hang on 1 second. He did a song about Gremlins 2 that's called Save Dat Mermaid. He did one about Doom called, was it IDQQD? It's the God Code. But the song he's mostly known for is called Straight Up Otter Time because he's a huge fan of sea life and he loves the otters. So he made a song about them. Come on. Let's go. Come on, computer. Let's do it. There you go. Taking forever here. Oh, 4 fat guys. 4 fat guys. Yep, here it is. Share. Copy. Okay. Check that link out that I just put in the chat. That goes to the 4 Fat Guys music video, which is really well put together and really funny too. I highly recommend checking him out. Almost grabbed Last Starfighter again. Derp derp. Okay, rare. Got to have all the rare games. So Iron Sword, Wizards and Warriors 2. A lot of people really hate this game. I've always had a soft spot for it because this was one of those games that made me use my brain when I was a kid. you had to do this game in a specific way, in a specific order to get anywhere, and required a ton of memorization. And for some reason, this was one of the games like this that I was actually really good at. I never actually beat it, but I got pretty far. And I remember watching the Renaissance on Twitch stream this, and it was like driving him nuts. Like, it took him 3 nights to beat it until he got to the point where he knew where everything was, exactly what he had to do to get to the items that he needed in order to get to the final boss and beat him. And it was like, after he was done, he was like, that was an experience. That wasn't a game. That was an experience. He goes, I don't know if I want to experience it again, but I'm happy that I did, kind of thing. And that's exactly kind of how I felt about this. This game required work and dedication and patience. And I thought the payoff was pretty good. Not my favorite game in the series. Well, I haven't really put a whole lot of time into the third one, but the first one is fun. This one like amped it up to 11, and then Rare did not work on the third one. A different company did it. But the thing everybody knows about this game is this freaking cover that features Fabio. So back in the day when Fabio was like the bee's knees for the soccer moms, I had this running joke going, and I think I mentioned it in the last series of streams I did a few years ago, that the reason this was one of the most common games in everyone I knew's library was because the kids would be like, hey, Mom, can I get a new game for the NES? And their mom would be like, yeah, sure, I'll go get one. They go to the store. They see Fabio on the cover, and the mom goes, oh, this one's for me. Oh. And, yeah, you're playing this game by day, and your mom's getting wet to this by night kind of thing. So that's why everyone I knew had a copy of this game. Not because they thought it was good or that they thought it was fun. Mom bought it for reasons. I don't think it's nearly as bad as Deadly Towers. Deadly Towers, man. No thanks. I'd play that over Deadly Towers any day. Exactly, Fabi. Oh! Until he got his face broken by a seagull? So I picked this up at this year's Midwest Gaming Classic. Another game that I did not know was developed by Rare. And I just happened to find it out by looking at the back while I was looking at it at the seller's table. And that is Ivan Iron Man Stewart's Super Off-Road. So I had the Super Nintendo game based on this arcade game back when it first came out, back when I first got my Super Nintendo. I thought it was fantastic. I love that music. The music in that game is fantastic. And I knew that Rare had developed it because they were working exclusively with like Trade West at that time. So when I went to the table at the Midwest Gaming Classic and I saw this sitting there and I was like, Super Off-Road. Didn't Rare make the Super Nintendo version of that game? I was like, let me see something. So I pull it down and I'm looking at the back and sure enough, developed by Rare. So it's based on an old arcade game, and this has the 4-player situation going on. You can use the 4 score to play 4 players. It's like a one-screen type of game where you have like a racetrack, and you're playing as a bunch of like off-road pickup trucks, and you're just trying to go around the track and come in first place. You pick up turbos or turbo boosts as you go. There's weird terrain effects, like there's jumps and bumps and dips and stuff like that that can either help you or hamper you. And in between the races, you're getting money for what place you play or what place you're in, and you can use that to upgrade your vehicle so you get more turbo, better wheels, better suspensions, better engine kind of thing. Super fun. This was not nearly as good as the Super Nintendo one. The Super Nintendo one has a special place in my heart because that was one of the first Super Nintendo games I ever bought, but this one is still pretty good too. Absolutely love it. Yes. Got went for Dr. Mario and Tetris. Playing a game with a full group in an arcade was an amazing. Yes, I always wanted to play that because I remember I saw the arcade cabinets at the Great America, like I was talking about earlier, all the time. It was never with any friends when I would go there. If anything, it was with one person, so we never got to play a 4-player game. Bruised shoulders from shoving and punching. Yeah. Here's another one that Musty Hobbit streamed right before the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018. And I was like, I used to have that game back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. That's what I keep on forgetting I need to add to my collection. So I made it a point at the Midwest Gaming Classic that year to get a copy of Jackal. Jackal is a super fun, I guess it's a shmup, sort of, I guess, or I don't know. You play as a Jeep, and you're going around trying to rescue hostages that are held in like these tents, in like these little camps. And when you rescue hostages, they will usually power up your weapon. You can only shoot straight up with your main weapon. And it never is able to, you're never able to turn it in any specific direction. It's always shooting straight up. But you have the ability to toss grenades in any direction. And you can upgrade the grenades as you go. When you rescue a bunch of people, one of them will be flashing, one of the hostages will be flashing. You pick him up, your grenade gets an upgrade, and eventually you'll shoot rockets. And then the rockets will eventually explode in 4 directions, so you get more of a blast radius going on, and it gets super fun. I absolutely love this game. The music is super catchy. The graphics are great. It plays so well. I love it. It's a classic to me. I absolutely love it. Yeah, definitely. I absolutely love it. Played that so much as a kid. I'm still trying. I always forget whenever I go to conventions to look for a copy of Russian Attack. That's another one of those arcade games I used to play all the time at home on the NES. By Konami, and I always forget to look for it. How many rockets can a Jeep carry? 1 million. Akari Warriors Jeep Edition. Way better than Akari Warriors, though, I'll tell you that. Akari Warriors. Is that an arcade game also? Because the NES versions, at least the first, I like the second one a little bit. Was it the Rescue or whatever? The first one I wasn't a big fan of. Anyway, I don't own any of those. I probably will at some point, though. This is the weird situation with how I got this complete. So we're talking Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu. This is like one of those really expensive games nowadays. So the thing was, back in the end of 1999 and the beginning of 2000, I was in between jobs, and just so I had money coming in, I got a job at the Kmart that I worked at when I was in high school. Just until I could I had a job in mind. I was being interviewed for that job. It took them forever to make the choice to hire me. So in between, I was like, I still need to have some money. So I went back to that Kmart, worked in the electronics department. At that point in time, in the video game section, they had these like used games, and it was usually just the cartridge, and it was in like a bubble wrap package, and they had them hanging up in our game cabinet. And they're usually super cheap. And I remember I always wanted to play Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu back in the day, but I never could because I wasn't really a Jackie Chan fan, or enough of a fan back then to want to play it. And then like Rumble in the Bronx comes out and Super Cop and all that. I'm like, yes! So in like early 2000, I saw that this game was like it was either $5 or $10 or something like that in the case. And I was collecting back then at that point. I had my collection started that I ended up having to sell in 2011 when I lost the job that I was waiting to get. So I picked this up and I was like, cool, I can play this finally. And I played it and I loved it. I thought it was really fun. It was really fun, side-scrolling, cartoony, like chibi beat 'em up with Jackie Chan. A lot of platforming elements too. Super colorful by Hudson. Everything Hudson did was usually pretty good. And then when I got back into collecting in 2011, this was one of those cartridges that never actually sold when I put everything up for sale. So I still had it when I got back into collecting. And I was like, how am I going to complete this? This game's pretty expensive. Well, I found someone on eBay selling a manual super cheap. So I bought that. And then eventually I found a box decently. It was a little more than I wanted to pay, but I paid it just so I could finish it off. But it was still cheaper than buying the game completely complete, from the start. So yeah, I ended up completing this 15 years after I bought it originally. But it's a super fun game. I watched Eugene, E.C. Myers videos stream this not too long ago, and he was having a blast playing it. I really want to get the TurboGrafx 16 version of this because it's like a better version of this game. But it's fantastic. If you have the means and you're able to, or just get not a repro, a ROM of it, play it. It's super fun. Had a cool joysticks. I never played Akari Warriors in the arcade. Here's another LJN joint. Captain Algebra agrees with me on this one, that this one is very underrated. I wore a shirt based on this game at the Mo Game Con. If you remember, Dan, you were there. Jaws. I have a soft spot for this game. My buddy Gary got it back in the day. I watched him play through it in one afternoon. I basically, like within the space of an hour, he had this game beat. It's very simple. It actually has like some RPG elements to it if you really think about it. Oh, a spinner joystick, kind of like what is it? Enemy line or enemy front? Was it Frontline had like one of those joysticks that you had to spin. That's pretty cool. You play. So a lot of people don't realize this is actually based on Jaws: The Revenge, not the original Jaws, which I think is another issue that people have with it. So the whole idea behind Jaws: The Revenge was the shark went to Jamaica or the Caribbean to stalk the remaining Brody people because it's not explained in the movie. In the novelization, it's explained why it followed them. It had a voodoo curse put on it. Wonder why they cut that information out of the movie. So it's going after the eldest Brody son who works on a boat. They're like collecting conch shells and like putting trackers on them so they can see the migration patterns and stuff. So in the game, you play as Mike Brody in that boat, and you're going underwater to collect conch shells, which are currency in the game. And you start off at one port, and you need to make your way to the other port on the other side of the stage. And every time you get to that port, your level will go up one, and you're able to fight Jaws when you do eventually fight him. It makes it easier. Like your power level goes up a little bit. And you need to keep going between those two ports in order to get your power level up to a point where Jaws is not a problem anymore. Because eventually, as you're traveling between the two, you'll see the shark fin pop up. And if you hit it, you have a fight with Jaws, and he's very tough to take out early on in the game. You need to do that thing at least 10, 12 times, raise your power level up to get to the point where you can beat Jaws. And once you do defeat him in the side-scrolling part, then it turns into the ending of Jaws: The Revenge, where you need to ram his throat with the front of your boat by shocking him with this thing that you've attached to the shark's back, the back of his neck. And he'll jump out of the water and do like a little spin, a little pirouette in front of you, and then you need to ram him with the front of the boat to kill him. It's a fun game, I think. I know a lot of people think it's garbage, but I had a good time with it. And the fact that it actually captures, even though Jaws: The Revenge, I think, is a flaming hunk of shit, it captures the movie pretty well. You even have a bonus level where you're playing as Michael Caine and his freaking drug-running boat, another thing they cut out of the movie that's in the novelization. The reason Michael Caine was on that island was because he was running drugs with his plane, and you're flying around in Michael Caine's plane, dropping bombs on jellyfish, like schools of jellyfish. It's weird, but it follows the movie pretty well. It's a shitty movie, but it follows it pretty well. I think it's funny that they didn't call it Jaws: The Revenge, probably because it wouldn't have sold if they did. No one wants a game based on a shitty movie. Next up is a new game for the NES. Kevin Smith made a game that was available, I think, for download only for like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One and I think Steam, based on Jay and Silent Bob, and eventually it got like all these physical ports everywhere. I have it for the PS4. Spoiler, but Limited Run Games put it on a cartridge for the NES. So I got here Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl, and it's a beat 'em up, kind of like Double Dragon with Jay and Silent Bob. Yeah, it's come out on like everything. I have it. I got it through Limited Run Games for the PS4, and it's actually kind of cool. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, so I absolutely had to have this. I think there was a couple of different editions of cartridge, kind of like with Holy Diver, where you could get different colored cartridges depending on like random chance. And the one that I ended up getting through Limited Run is this yellow cartridge. Not the prettiest thing ever, but I would have preferred to get something red or whatever, or purplish to match the artwork on the label. But not mad because the game is actually pretty fun. Won't play on my Retro Freak at all. I think there's a ROM of it out there. I think I have the ROM for it on my my card for my Retro Freak, but the actual cartridge itself will not run because it's not recognized as a legit cart. I think anything not produced like during the time of the NES does not register unless it's a repro of an existing game in Japan. But whatever. It's super fun. Super fun beat 'em up. And it's got the humor and everything that you expect from Kevin Smith. And it's 2-player. Yeah, it's like River City Ransom and Double Dragon 2, it says. It's really fun. Next up, we've got Joe and Mack. Got this from my buddy Felix the Brett from Batter Rad's Retro Nerdatorium. My nose is getting stuffed up again. Am I getting a cold? Well, if I can't taste anything, maybe I got the COVID. I got the Rona. I can taste. We're good. Yeah, Joe and Mack is a port of an arcade game. I don't know why they decided to rename it when they came to the home consoles. In the arcade, this was called Caveman Ninja. And then when it came to the Super Nintendo and the NES, they renamed it Joe and Mack. Don't ask me why. But yeah, this is like a dumbed down, demake of the arcade game. The Super Nintendo version is definitely closer to the arcade game, but this one is the exact same game as the Super Nintendo one, just with archaic graphics, old schooler 8-bit graphics. There we go. I can't words today. And it's super fun. It's still as fun as the Super Nintendo game. I need to get a copy of the Super Nintendo game. Goddamn. But yeah, super fun game where it's like a run and gun, but you're cavemen. It's more of a beat 'em up because you have the club. Eventually, you can throw like stone wheels and stuff. So I guess that would make it kind of a shoot 'em up at times. More platforming stuff too. But the bosses are super fun. You can see that giant dinosaur on the corner here. It's like the first boss you fight. Really fun. When I got that off of Brett, I didn't think I would like it compared to the Super Nintendo game because the Super Nintendo one was one of the first games I got for my SNES back in the day. And I had like a soft spot for it. I need to get it for the Super Nintendo. And I didn't think I was going to like that, but it's actually super fun. Speaking of Sunsoft, I was talking earlier, they were like one of the people or one of the companies that was licensing stuff all the time. And then they did Journey to Silius, which was supposed to be a Terminator game. Then they lost the license when they were about to release it. So they had to go back in and quickly retool some things to not make it Terminator-esque. But guess what? It's still very Terminator-like. Some of the bosses look like Terminator-like vehicles and stuff, like the Hunter-Killers and all that. And they made the character not look like Reese. And they kind of sci-fi'd up the background so it looks like you're in outer space instead of on ruined Earth from the movies. But it's a side-scrolling run and gun. It is super fun. It's hard. A lot of people tell me this game is easy. I have difficulty with it, but like I said, I'm not very good at retro games. Silius is great. I love it. The music is fantastic. The graphics are great. I love everything about it. It's just, for me, it's pretty hard. But it doesn't mean I don't like it. I love it a lot. This was one of those games I never had back in the day that I always wanted. Never found it discounted anywhere. Never rented it. But I remember seeing a friend of mine I know had this. I don't remember if I ever watched them play it or not. But I always wanted it because I remember seeing it in the magazines and everything and being like, that looks rad as hell. I remember seeing it as the Terminator game, and then it didn't become a Terminator. It didn't stay a Terminator game. But getting it as an adult and playing it, I was like, yes, I wish I did have this back in the day. It would have been honestly, this would have been on my top 10 NES games if I had nostalgia for it. So here is a official, not really official. I got this. Okay, so I was talking about Time Walk Games earlier when I was talking about Goonies. And when they closed down, I was kind of upset because there were so many games I wanted to get from them. Well, now this company has kind of taken their place because the thing about Time Walk was they went above and beyond. All they really had to do was release a cartridge and give you the option to maybe have the manual in a box, and that's it. But they usually would give you like a poster or a map or a bunch of other extra stuff inside too, along with the game. Well, this company that I started buying stuff from is called Fishy Faced Games. And I think, they're on Instagram. That's where I saw a lot of their stuff. I think I found them on Facebook at first, and then they moved over to Instagram, and that's where they talk about all the games that they're releasing. And these guys do a way better job than Time Walk ever did. So I picked this one up. They had a clearance sale of some of the overstock of some of the repros that weren't selling very much. So I went and bought this and a Game Boy Color game that they, made a repro of. God damn, I got the hiccups now. I'm clogged, I'm dry throat, and I got the hiccups. So the one that I got from them was on discount was called Just Breed. And this is an RPG that only was released in Japan for the Famicom. And it looks kind of basic. It looks a lot like a Final Fantasy game or a Dragon Warrior game. Whatever. I'm cool with that. Comes with a very fantastic looking box. I love that artwork. Anime-esque. Awesomeness. And their manuals are awesome. They are full size, like the size of the box. Hang on, get out of there. Full color, glossy paper, like super high quality. This guy's like doing this out of his house. And they usually, this is what gets me about these guys. So you got the cart here, and it's white to match the label, which is great. Matches the artwork. Comes in like a clear sleeve, which is kind of cool too. But every time I buy a game from them, they also give you a display stand for the cartridge just in case you want to put it out for everyone to see. So if you love the look of this cart, you can assemble this thing, and it basically stands the cart up like that, and you can just put it out for everyone to admire. I'm not into that kind of thing. I do have one thing that's very similar to that I will show you at the very end of the NES streams. That is the craziest thing I managed to get a copy of. Craziest thing ever. If some of you know what it is already, some of you don't that are new, you will be surprised when you see this monstrosity that I managed to get. I don't remember if it's... I think it's from Fishy Face. I have like 3 games from this company, or from this guy that makes these repros. Super high quality. Everything is great. And this one actually plays on my Retro Freak because it's based off of a legit Famicom game, so it gets recognized, which is cool. But yeah, I need to put some time aside to play some RPGs, so yep. Next up is Kabuki Quantum Fighter. Never had this back in the day either. This is another one where like the artwork and the name kind of made me go like, nah, I'm all right. I wish I did because this game is so metal. Your character headbutts things to death in the game. So you're like this weird digital Kabuki character that's running around like inside a computer, like just destroying shit, if I remember correctly. Earth of the future. The defense computer protecting the entire planet has been invaded by a constantly mutating virus, so you go inside to destroy it. And yeah, you're playing as this guy with this long mane of red hair, and to destroy things, you like basically headbutt them to death. It is super cool. What is that? Are they the ones who did the repro for Star Ocean Blue Sphere? Yep, that's the other game I bought from them. Spoiler alert. I bought this from Fishy Face at the same time I bought Just Breed. Super awesome side-scrolling platform beat 'em up. I wish I played this back in the day because it is so nutso. I would have been like, yes, B-movie video game. So when I talked about Last Starfighter and the extra manual that I got in the box, this is that game that the manual was for. The Karate Kid. Another LJN joint, y'all. So I had this back in the day. My friend Gary had this. A couple of my other friends, I want to say my friend Keith that lived down the street from me had it. Yeah, I got it like on discount. They were trying to get rid of them. So I picked it up for like half off or something. So I only paid like $25 for it or something. Yeah, but everyone I knew, like a bunch of friends that I knew had this back in the day. My friend Gary had it. I think he tried to beat it in front of me. Like he wanted to play through it in front of me, and I don't think he did. I ended up getting really close to the end of this one, but I never beat it. I was really good at that stupid mini game where you got to like avoid that swinging guillotine blade, and you gotta go to like swish and swish, swish. I got really good at that mini game. Most of my friends hated that one, but I was pretty good at it. It's a side-scrolling action game. I think there's only 3 stages to this, but it's like the tournament from the first movie, and then you're in Japan from the second movie, and then you got to defeat Chosen at the end of the end of the second movie in order to get your girlfriend. It's weird. This was developed by Atlas. Atlas, the company that makes all the games that go up in price after they've been released, kind of thing. Persona. Bug-free? Oh, I don't know. I'll find out once I get around to playing it. Yeah, it's a side-scrolling like beat 'em up, and there's a ton of knockback. You get touched by an enemy, and you go flying back pretty far, and you'll get swarmed. Next thing you know, your character's a freaking pinball, just getting bounced around between characters. Some parts of it are super unfair, but I always would get lucky and like not have a ton of enemies swarm me a lot when I would play it. But when my friends would play it, I'd always see it happen to them, which was weird. I was like, did I get like a fixed version of this? Because I did end up getting a copy of this on clearance at that KB Toys for like $6 or something. And it makes me wonder, like, they would do revisions of games. Maybe I got like a fixed version of it, because mine, like, I didn't really, the swarming never really happened to me. I don't know. But I always had a good time with this one. I was a big fan of the Karate Kid movie series back then, so I had to have it. And then maybe get off my butt and buy a copy of it by getting that extra manual inside my Last Starfighter. My nose is super clogged again. Hang on one second. I'm going to blow my nose again. It's like maybe I'm getting allergies or something. It is starting to get nicer out, so I don't know. This is the kind of thing that happens to me when I get allergies. Anyway, next up we got Karnov. Not a fan of this game. I used to like it when I was a kid. This is one of those games I picked up on discount at KB Toys, and I remember a couple of my friends had this too. My friend Gary had it. And I thought it was good back then, but I play it now, and this game just angers me. I don't understand why. Random trivia. Star Ocean is a DX cart, so you can play it on the DMG black and white system, and it still works. Oh. I remember there was a R-Type DX or something was a thing? Yeah, it's a side-scrolling. It's not really a beat-em-up. It's not really a run and gun. I guess it's just a platformer. We're playing as like this Russian circus performer guy who can shoot fire. You turn blue for some reason at some point when you collect enough power-ups. And you've got like an inventory of like letters, and each one will do something. Like L stands for ladder. So if you need to reach a power-up that's high up and you can't jump to it, you put up those ladders you can climb. It's just there's so many random things just always coming at you. And like the game doesn't feel like it was finished to me when I play it now. There's like the music is like there's one track of music the entire game, and it gets really flippin' annoying. Like the sound effects don't happen half the time. Like they don't trigger when they're supposed to, and the graphics don't look good. It just doesn't play well for me. I can't stand it. But I have this because of nostalgia. It says it's based on an arcade game. I don't know if I want to play that one. Probably not. Yep. Oh, Karnov? Yeah, I'm not. I'm probably never going to play it. I have it in my collection because of nostalgic purposes, but I'm never going to play it. Yeah, my memories were good too until I played it again. I was like, the hell is this? Another one that I had, or I played a lot back in the day, I never actually owned my own copy of this, but I played this at my friend's houses, was Kid Nicky, Radical Ninja. This is a long-running series on the Famicom. I think there's like 3 or 4 games in this series over there, but we only got one of them. But it's a side-scrolling. I guess it's a beat-em-up. You play as this little chibi character with a ponytail, and you like you have a sword. Like you can see it on the cover. You have a sword, but you basically are twirling it really fast, so it looks like you're holding like a shuriken, and it's spinning in your hand, and that's how you attack. And you're looking for your kidnapped girlfriend, like in every frickin' video game was back then. Man, women had it rough back then. Samus was the only one that was like going like hell with that shit. I ended up finding this at a half-price books for like $20 in the box, and this was going for a little bit of money at the time when I found it. So when I saw it at their cabinet, and when it comes to like in-box stuff, like I want to say 9 out of 10 times they don't know what they're worth, so they just kind of slap a price on it, going probably by what the cartridge is just worth. Like I got that Dash Galaxy for like $5 complete in box there, and it looked like it was brand new. And I found this for like $20. And it was a brand new half-price books that had just opened up. So I'm wondering if they just had like some kind of weird pricing snafu. But I was like, I ain't passing that up. Mine. And it's a super fun game. I really need to look up the Japanese sequel so I can actually try those out. Next up, we've got one of the first games Square ever made that's not called Rad Racer. This is called King's Knight. What is that? There's something written on the top, but it's written in such a weird font. I don't understand what it says. But yeah, I think it's just specifically called King's Knight. But it's like a shmup. It's like a weird version of a shmup. I guess the proto Pocky and Rocky, maybe? It's vertically scrolling. He plays this little guy, and you're constantly having to shoot like these... like the screen scrolls down at you. If you get caught, by something and push down to the bottom of the screen, you're dead. But there's like all these blocks in front of you and enemies and stuff, and you can destroy all these blocks to get like power-ups and stuff. And the whole aim is to just let the level scroll out completely, get to the top, fight a boss, and then start over on another stage. It's not that good. I remember I always was intrigued by the like anime cover, but I never played this back in the day. I didn't play this until I bought my first copy when I got back into collecting in 2013. I want to say I got this pretty early on in my collecting. I got this off of eBay for like $20. And I was like, it looks kind of cool. I remember it looking kind of cool when I was a kid, but I never actually played it. And I played it, and I was just kind of like, not the greatest. PTSD triggers, yeah. Not my favorite. Luckily, Square bounced back. I remember reading that because that didn't sell very well, that they were like 2 steps away from shutting down. Square was 2 steps away from shutting down, and Final Fantasy is the game that saved them. So they owe their whole existence to Final Fantasy. Here we have a classic by Nintendo. We've got Kirby's Adventure, another series I never played. Like the first game came out on the Game Boy, and I remember looking at that and going, that looks like a little kid's game. Not interested. So I skipped, passed on it. Oh, God, it's been 2 hours already. It's happening, guys, and I still got a little bit of stack to go. But when I got back when I got back into collecting in 2013, I looked into these games because I heard that like a lot of the Kirby games were like really expensive nowadays. For some reason, the Kirby games would never drop in price. They would just go up in price. So I was like, I need to find out what's going on. So I ended up getting the Game Boy game. The Game Boy game ended up being pretty fun. And then I was like, well, I need to get the NES game. And I got this off my buddy, Felix the Cat. He had a complete box copy, and he sold it to me for a decent price. I wasn't going to pass it up. And it's a side-scrolling action game platformer. He plays a little cloud with eyeballs and a big-ass mouth, and he inhales enemies in, and then he inherits their powers for like a time. It's a really cool idea, really fun game series. They've gone in weird directions since then. Some good, some not so good, but whatever. Okay, so now we can pass up Kung Fu and Last Starfighter, like the alphabet suggests. We got some stuff coming up that's got stories attached to it. God dang it. Here's a repro I got from Shantendo 64 off of Instagram. And Eugene, E.C. Myers vids on YouTube is going to be streaming this pretty soon. From what I understand, this is actually, in Japan, it is a Famicom Disk System game. And just kind of like Mario Brothers 2, it got ported from the Disk System to a cartridge. Same with Metroid, same with Legend of Zelda, and Castlevania. Well, it's called Layla, and this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, I think. I just wanted to make sure that this worked on my NES before my Retro Freak, before anything else. I didn't really put any time into it, but it looks like it's a side-scrolling. Yeah, it's a side-scrolling like platformer. And like I always say with Shantendo stuff, he puts a decent package together. This box feels pretty good. Feels like an honest, authentic NES game. Comes on a pink cart because sure, why not? And it has a full color manual, so I'm not going to complain. I need to set some time aside to play through this. I'll probably watch Eugene stream this. See if it's something that I'll actually want to spend some time on. Next up is Legacy of the Wizard. This is one of those games I watched my buddy Gary beat in one sitting right in front of me, and I don't know how he memorizes all this. Like, it was one of those things I was like, you are some kind of savant, because you could memorize all this crap when it would take me writing down lots and lots of notes to remember all this crap. But it is not an RPG. It's an adventure game. It's a side-scrolling adventure game. Puzzle-ish, I guess. You can kind of see it on the back. You have like 4 family members, and you have to like swap between them in order to solve like these puzzles to progress in the game, like to get up the ladders and stuff. It's been a long time since I played it, and I remember watching Gary beat this, and I was just like, God damn, there's no way in hell I'd ever be able to do anything with this game. But I found a really dirt cheap copy of this, so I was like, sure, why not? And I played a little bit of it when I bought this copy. And this is one of the first games I got back in 2013. And I was just kind of like, yeah, this is going to take some time. But I remember it took Congaraya on Twitch a long time to beat this game, and she loves this game. And I was just kind of like, I don't quite have that love for it, but I need to put more time into it. Here's one that I played all the time as a kid, Legend of Kage. It's I want to say it's an arcade game, if I remember correctly, but it's like a side-scrolling, beat-em-up, hack-and-slashy type thing. You play as like this disgraced samurai guy, and you're trying to, I think, save your girlfriend, if I remember correctly. The thing about this game is your character jumps like 13 stories in one bound. It's the weirdest shit. I like it. I love this. There's a pseudo sequel spinoff or whatever called Demon Sword for the NES that I talked about in the last stream. Plays exactly like this. Maybe it was just because it was from the same developer. I don't know if it's actually connected to the Legend of Kage, but there is an actual sequel to this on the DS that I own. Spoiler alert. But I played this all the time as a kid. Never really got that far in it. I just like jumping around and taking on other ninjas and shit. But it's super fun. I need to actually beat that someday. And we got the absolute classic Legend of Zelda. I got the gold cart version. You can see it in there. This was, I think, the first game my buddy Gary ever bought or ever got for the Nintendo. I almost said Super Nintendo. I need to take a nap. The thing was, at the time, he only had a black and white television to play it on. So I watched him beat this game on a black and white TV. And I was like, I am not mad about that, because I'm like, this is like, at this point, I'd only been playing Atari 2600. I had seen a ColecoVision being played. I had seen an Intellivision being played. I had never seen a Nintendo yet. Watching my buddy Gary beat this was the first game I ever saw played on an NES that wasn't called Super Mario Brothers. And I was like, holy crap, we are here. This is the next level. This is amazing. The graphics are so realistic, kind of thing. You know, I absolutely must have a Nintendo now. And yeah, classic adventure game. I don't even call this an RPG. There's no leveling system unless you call it getting all your hearts. But super awesome dungeon crawly goodness. Can't say anything that hasn't already been said. I do have this on this was on my list of top 10 NES games for good reason. I would play that nonstop. Beat it. I never actually beat the second quest though. But the first one, I would be like, yeah, no problem. Half an hour and a half, done. Legendary Wings. This is one of the games we got when I was a kid from, I don't remember if our grandma bought. I think this is what my brother got when I got Gremlins 2. I think this is the game my brother got. And like I said, he was a whiner when we were kids. He was a huge whiner. Nothing was ever good enough. So I remember I got Gremlins 2. My brother bought this. He played it for like 15 minutes. He's like, I don't like it. I want to take it back. And my grandma would be like, you don't understand the way retail works, kid. It's been opened. There is no going back. It's yours now. There were no resale shops and stuff for like Funko Land at that point in time that I knew about, at least. So yeah, we were kind of stuck with it. But it is a vertically and horizontally scrolling shmup. There's some parts where, well, you play as like a Kid Icarus type where you got wings. Actually, I think it's like a wing suit. And yeah, shmup stuff. It's actually pretty fun. It's tough. It is tough. I will give it. That's probably why my brother didn't like it. It was way too the difficulty was like beyond his skill set. But I remember every time I would play this, I'd be like, yeah, I'd get a little further each time, and I'd be like, yeah, this game is pretty fun. It just takes some patience to get into it. It's not bad. Capcom. Well, thanks for stopping in, VGM. I appreciate it. Hope to see you next Thursday. Part 3 of the NES games. Almost done here anyway, so you're not going to be missing much. I got like 6 more games to talk about, and we done. Another classic from Konami. We got the Life Force. Oh my God. I was not into shmups back in the day at all. My friends would always want to play them. My friends would always want to do 2-player in the arcades when it came to a shmup. No, I'm good. I'm not big into that genre. I watched a friend of mine play Gradius ad nauseum. Like, I just was like, no, I'm not into this kind of genre. Until I saw Life Force. My buddy Gary, who I keep on bringing up, he got this game. He was like, hey, come on over. I'll play Life Force, and you can watch me beat it. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I watched him play through this, and it was like watching the coolest sci-fi horror movie crossover you've ever seen in your life. And it was interactive. So I've always been fascinated with horror movies. Wasn't allowed to watch them as a kid. until I was like, I think in 8th grade was when I was like, F this, I'm watching these movies now. I don't care if you let me or not, parents. I'm rebelling. So the first one I ever watched was Hellraiser 2, uncut. And I was like, okay, I went extreme, but now I'm ready. But yeah, you're inside a living creature in this game, and you're trying to destroy him from the inside out. That idea got me into shmups. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, yeah, it has like your typical, it was basically a Gradius game inside of an alien. I was like, I don't care that I'm playing a shmup now. The fact that I'm inside a creature is just awesome. This is so cool. What kind of weird shit am I going to see next? Absolutely love it. Has a banger for a soundtrack. The graphics are fantastic. The Konami code works on this one too. So if you suck at shmups, this is your game. But absolutely had to have this. I have the actual arcade version for another console, and the arcade, this was called Salamander. When it got ported to the NES, it's called Life Force. Life Force was your jam. Loved it over Gradius and Proteus. Hell yeah. Yeah. I have I'll show it when I get to that console, but I have a collection that has Salamander 1 and 2 on it, and this version on it too. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, Life Force, the shmup that got me into shmups. After this, I was like, hey, Gradius 3 on the Super Nintendo? Give it. Had absolutely no intention of ever owning this game, but I went to my local retro store, Video Games Then and Now, and they had this in the case. And like I said, I've said it I don't know how many times in my regular old pickup streams and everything. This guy I don't think pays attention to the eBay prices for things. He just kind of goes like, I think this is what it's worth. Buy it or take it or leave it. Usually I take it. Because they're usually way under what's going on eBay. So he had a copy of The Little Mermaid. And I was like, I see a complete in-box NES game that's in decent shape. And it's a Capcom jam. So I was like, kind of want to get all those Capcom games. I was like, for like, what, $25 or whatever it was that he was selling? Or $40 he was selling this for. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, it's actually not too bad. Because I had played, yeah, it was right there, $40. Still have to take the sticker off. Anyway, the R-Tape's my second. Yes, R-Tape, when I got my Super Nintendo, R-Tape was the third game I think I bought for my Super Nintendo, and I was like, this is it. Yeah, this is the pinnacle. We're here. Didn't care about all the slowdown. This is it. We're here. This is amazing. I had played the Genesis game back in the day, and I was like, this is some shit. This is garbage. So immediately I transported that hatred over to this. I was like, this is going to be garbage too. Not realizing, well, Capcom kind of knows what they're doing when it comes to these Disney licenses. So now playing it as an adult, which I never played back in the day, it's actually not too bad. Booted it up to make sure it was working. It's not bad. It's like I guess it would be considered like a platformer, but you're underwater. And your way of attacking is by picking things up and like throwing them like shells and stuff at enemies and all that. And you're just trying to get to Ursula and beat her ass. Beat her multi-tentacled ass. It's actually not that bad. Another Capcom classic. We got Little Nemo, the Dream Master. We got this back in the day from my grandmother, my brother. I think my brother was the one who got this game. And it was another one where he was like, I don't like it. I don't know what I'm doing in it. I'm like, read the freaking manual, kid. So I ended up playing this more than he did, and I always loved it because of the fact that you play as this little kid and you're like in some dreamland kind of situation. I think it's like he fell asleep and you're living through his dream world kind of thing. Your main weapon is like this staff thing, but you throw candy, and if you throw the candy at certain animals, if you hit them like 3 times with the candy, it'll put them to sleep, and then you can jump on them and take them over or ride them. Most of the time, you just take them over. And you get certain abilities. Like you can climb things now. You can jump real far. You can attack. It is super cool. Eventually, your staff will be able to shoot stuff. But it's a really cool platformer that I thought was really creative for the time because I had played Super Mario Brothers and stuff like that. This was like a really cool mix between, I guess, it had some Mega Man-esque stuff going on in it too, like with the taking over of the animals is kind of like getting the powers from the Robot Masters. But super fun. Had no idea this was based on a French comic book until way later. But I always had a soft spot for this, so I absolutely had to have it. I think it's a classic. Next up is Low G Man. This is the game that got me into Taxan as a publisher. So my brother and I rented this from the local video store. And usually it's like box art. I was just kind of like, at first I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. That's kind of unimpressive. But then I looked at the back and I was like, that looks really colorful. And it looks kind of cool. And I remember seeing stuff about this, and like my camera's going absolutely nuts because of this yellow box. Jesus. I remember seeing ads for this in the magazines, and I remember reading reviews of it, and they were saying, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got a cool attack mechanic where you got like this staff, and you can like jump over things and like attack from above with your staff, and then you can take over vehicles and all that. I was like, that sounds kind of cool. So we rented it, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and ended up getting a copy of my own at KB Toys on, when I got a clearance copy. And it is, I consider this to be one of those diamonds in the rough on the NES that nobody really talks about. It has super cool graphics, very reminiscent of Kickmaster and the G.I. Joe game. Makes me wonder if the same people made it, because the jumping kind of works the same in this too. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, maybe it was developed by the same people. But it is super fun. It like the mechanics of it are amazing. The graphics and the music are really the graphics are cool. The music is catchy. I can't words today, guys. Really. I highly recommend, if you have not ever given this game its due, now is the time. I highly recommend this one. It's one of my all-time favorites. And we got 2 more games to go, guys. And the next one's got a story. We got Mule. So I talked about this in my Mo GameCon pickups stream from a few weeks back, that Mule is not the most exciting idea for a game. It is a stocks, like trading and selling kind of game in outer space. You land on a planet, you have a certain amount of money in your bank or in your account, you have a bunch of land to choose from, and a cursor will go across all the plots of land that are available, and you can pick one. There's a river that goes through the entire center of the plot, and there's areas that have mountains and stuff. The mountains and stuff are where you can develop energy. No, ore. Sorry, ore. Where the river is where you can develop food, because the water will help you grow crops. Everything else you can use for developing energy and food and whatever. You need to buy up these plots of land and start developing a commodity on them, and then sell the stock of commodity, or the surplus of commodity, of that commodity that you've built up at the stock market, and between each phase of the game. Doesn't sound like it's really exciting or anything, but the thing is, my dad had this for his Atari 800 XL, and he played this for literally years. He would come home from work, pour himself a little bit of whiskey, then fill the rest of the glass with water, because he didn't really like getting drunk. He didn't like drinking. He didn't like to the point. He liked to drink. He liked the flavor, but he didn't like getting drunk, so he would always water down his booze. And he would pour a drink, and they would play this all night long until dinner was ready, and then play it some more. And I remember just sitting there and watching him play this and going like, yeah, that doesn't sound interesting. When he like, my dad explained the way this game works to me. He basically explained the stock market to me when I was a little kid. We're talking like 8 or 9. And I was always fascinated by the game, even though I never actually played it on his computer until I got the app on my phone. There actually is an app out there of Mule Returns, and that's where I learned how to play the game. And then I was like, I need to get the original game on the NES, because I know it's out there, and you can actually play it 4-player with the 4 score, which is pretty awesome. But like I said, it doesn't sound exciting. It doesn't sound super, it's no action. There's no shooting or anything like that. It is a stock market game, but it has an interesting twist to it, and I think it's pretty fun. And it's by Mindscape, so you know how I hate Mindscape, because you're going to find out next why I hate Mindscape. But this game's actually pretty fun. Got this at the Mo GameCon, at that seller that I was talking about when I bought Gargoyle's Quest 2. And I was able to talk that guy down by a pretty decent amount. Same guy that I bought that from is the same guy I got this from. So I talked him down by about $20. So the final game of the night is a Mindscape game, and it is a licensed game. And I have I've told this story in a video on its own about, if you go back all the way at the beginning of my channel, you'll find my Mad Max rant video. It's Mad Max. I have history with this game. I beta tested this. It's actually in Brett Weiss's book. My story about this is in Brett Weiss's book about the NES. When you get to the Mad Max section, there is a novel-length article that I wrote about beta testing this. So Mindscape had their American headquarters about 2 towns away from where I grew up. And my dad used to go there because they had like a warehouse where they kept all the games that they were shipping out. And when they would have like overstock and they were trying to make room, they would have like these overstock clearance sales. And my dad would go there and buy a whole bunch of games. I played Gauntlet on my dad's old computer because he got a copy of it for his Atari computer. That's where he got Mule from, was through them. A whole bunch like classic games he was always buying from these guys. And one day when he went for one of these sales, they had a contest that they were running where it was like, hey, do you have kids? Are they Nintendo players? Sign them up, and if they win, they can become a beta tester for our newest game. They didn't say what the game was, but my dad signed me up for it because we had just gotten our NES, and we won. I wasn't the only winner. There was like 3 other kids that won too. So when we heard that we won, we had to go to the Mindscape headquarters. They gave me a Sharp Twin Famicom, just like that one I have down there, and a Famicom version of Mad Max. And this was the game I was supposed to beta test. So the way it worked was you bring this Twin Famicom home, you play this game for, I think it was a month. If I remember correctly, it was a full month. And then we'll give you a questionnaire to bring home with you before you come back and bring the Famicom disk system and the game back to us. Fill out this questionnaire, and then we'll have like a focus group thing, and we'll all sit around and talk about our thoughts on the game and how we can make it better, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, that kind of thing. Well, brought the console home, booted this up, and within the first like 5-10 minutes, I was like, fuck this game. This is the worst thing I've ever played. It has really nothing to do with Mad Max. When did Mad Max throw dynamite as his weapon? Never. Well, you play as Mad Max in his car for the majority of the game, and the only weapon you have is by tossing dynamite out the window. There is no explanation as to what is going on in the game. When I played the game, I didn't have a manual. I had to figure this all out on my own. So there was nothing to tell me what needed to be done, what my objectives were. The first thing you can do is drive up to this building, and there's like a guy in there who's selling stuff, and he's asking you these prices like gasoline and water and whatever and food you can trade for upgrades to your car. I don't have any of these things yet. Where do I find them? I don't know. You have to like go into these mines, which are off the beaten path and really hard to find if you don't know what you're doing. And then you're on foot, and there's like enemies running around in there. And the cool thing about this is, the only cool thing I will say about this game is when you shoot somebody with your shotgun, they like explode. Like, it's really gross. And one of those games where I was like, how did this get past the NES sensors or the Nintendo sensors? And you collect all these items that are in these mines, and then you go back to this guy and you start selling him the stuff in exchange for like goods to fix up your car and juice up your car. And then you can do these, what are supposed to be Thunderdome levels, like from Beyond Thunderdome, but it's all car racing around these tracks that have like these black holes that open up and suck your car in. It's not fair. It's not fun. The game is super hard. It is impossible to control. The fighting makes no sense. The on-foot levels are horribly, they control horribly. They look like shit. The only thing that's cool about this game are the sound effects. Your car, the tires squealing sound, and when you hit something, sounds like a sample of like a real thing. Like when you crash, you hear like a and it sounds like a real car crash sound effect. Your tires squealing sounds like a real tire squeal. The sound of your shotgun being fired sounds like a shotgun. Those are the only things I'll say that's good about this game. Everything else about it is unplayable pretty much. It is hard to control. It's ugly. When you go to when you beat a Thunderdome level and you go to the next section of levels, the overworld where you're in the car, it's the exact same level from before, just with a different color palette. And it looks just as ugly. Like for some reason, puke green and piss yellow are the colors of choice for Mindscape for this game. It's terrible, and I hated it. And I was forcing myself to play this for a month, which made me mad. So when we came back, time to go and do this focus group thing, when we came back and brought the game and the console back, all the other kids, okay, so the payment that the kids that we were going to get for beta testing this were 2 games from Mindscape for the NES. There was any game that they had released already was on hand. They already had it in there because they had their warehouse. They would give it to you on site at the focus group, or a choice of some of the games that they had in development that are going to come out, like 720 and Road Blasters, and there's one other one, but the ones you had to choose from were Last Starfighter, which I didn't want, Terminator, which I didn't want, Flight of the Intruder, which I didn't want. It was like all these licensed games that looked terrible. And the only ones I wanted were the ones that were coming out soon that were actually arcade ports, like 720 and Road Blasters. So, go to this focus group. The other 3 other kids were just kissing ass so they can get their games and get the fuck out of there. I, on the other hand, was like, the hell with that. You made me, like, I had to play this shitty game for a month. You're going to know about it. So, sure enough, the other 3 kids talk first. Tell them, oh, this game is so fun. It's the best game I've ever played. Where are my 2 free video games so I can go home and play those, which are hopefully better than the one that I just played. One of the kids told me outside of the focus group that he thought it was shit, but he was just going to say that it was good so he can get his games and go. So when it came to me, I was like, they're like, oh, what do you think? I'm like, this game was garbage. And they're like, what? I'm like, I hated it. I hated having to play it. I hate the fact that you guys made me play this for a whole month. I'm like, I was so mad. And especially since I was a fan of the movies I had seen, or I saw, I always say I had seen. I saw The Road Warrior and I saw Mad Max and I loved them. And I saw Beyond Thunderdome and I loved that one. So I was a fan of the movies before I played this game and I had expectations. And I'm like, you guys basically took a really cool character like Max based on some really cool movies and made one of the worst games I've ever played out of it. There were so many cool things you could have done with this and you did none of it. And they were like, oh, like what? And they were acting really nice. Like, tell us what we can do to make this game better. They took out pads of paper and pens. And I'm telling them, like, you have the guy from Thunderdome, the host from Thunderdome in the game. You have like a little cutscene with him saying like, hey, it's time to die. But then nothing from Thunderdome happens, at least nothing that happened in the movie. I'm like, where was Tina Turner's character? Where was Iron Bar? You're like, yeah, you have the Humongous in there. He's the final boss you fight. And I'm like, well, where are all the other characters from the movies? Where are all the scenarios from the movies? There's also all this cool stuff you could have pulled from and you used none of it. And I'm like, I hated that you didn't use any of the cool stuff. And they were like, oh, well, good to know. We'll let you know. Well, hopefully we'll be able to work this into the game. And my little kid brain is like, I'm influencing the development of a video game. This is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. So I could go and start bragging to my friends like, yeah, that Mad Max game, that is the most amazing game you ever played. I told them to make it like that because the version that I played was shit. And they're like, hey, okay, fine. Thanks for coming in. We've got your critiques and all that. We'll take them to heart. What games do you want? And I was like, I don't want any of your games that you have right now. I'm like, I want 720 and I want Road Blasters because I played those in the arcade and I really liked them. They're like, okay, fine. When we release them, we'll ship them to you. So Mad Max comes out like a few months later. There was no fanfare about it. I didn't even know it came out. The only reason I knew it was out was because my buddy Gary, that I keep on talking about, had rented it. And he goes, hey, I just rented that Mad Max game that you beta tested. Do you want to come over and check it out to see if anything changed? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll be right over. So come over. And it's the exact same game that I played. Nothing changed. It's just the same garbage. And I was just like, you guys made me think I was helping out in an area that I've always wanted to work in. I at one point I was like, I want to work in video games. And I was like, you guys just crush those dreams for me by being a bunch of tools. You had no interest in anything I had to say. You just put up with a little kid, who was really excited about this kind of helping out in this area, and you just took advantage of him and let him talk and then kicked him out. And on top of that, they only sent me one of the 2 games that they were supposed to send me. They only sent me 720. They never sent me Road Blasters. And when I actually got to the point where I was like, hey, where's my copy of Road Blasters? It's been a year. That plant shut down. That headquarters shut down and moved somewhere else. F you, Mindscape. That's why I have such a horrible reaction to Mindscape things. The only thing I will say that's cool about this game, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual game. It's that in the manual. Where is it? My name is in the special thanks. You can see it right there. Chris Pico. So this game is doo-doo. I absolutely hate it, but I had to have it because my name is in the manual. I thought I helped make this game better than it was when I played it. Turned out I didn't help anything because they changed absolutely nothing. It's the exact same shitty game that I played back in 1990 on a Sharp Twin Famicom. So, yeah, I had to have it just for that reason alone. I do not like this game at all. I think it is absolute trash. But that is that. And that's the last game I have to talk about tonight, guys. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that. Like, a lot of you have stayed for almost the entire stream. That is awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll be back next Thursday. I cannot words tonight. I think next time I'm going to drink an energy drink before I do one of these to keep my brain functioning completely 100%. I'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central for the third part of 4 when it comes to my NES collection. So you will see this section of shelving right here will be empty next week. I will also have next week, what is the last day of the month? Next week it is the... Please don't tell me it's Thursday. Oh, okay. So next Wednesday, I will have a recent pickup stream happening also. So 2 days in a row, you're going to get streams from me. I don't really have a lot to talk about. If this was the last day of the month right now, I wouldn't have a whole lot to talk about. The stream would probably be 20 minutes long. But this Saturday, in 2 days, I'm going to be going game hunting throughout Wisconsin with Captain Algebra, with Tiger Chainsaw, and Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club. And I'm gonna find some stuff. So I'll have some, and I'll definitely have some. I always find cool stuff when I go hunting throughout Wisconsin. So I'm hoping I'll have some really rad stuff to talk about next Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, recent pickup stream. And then the following day, next Thursday, will be the next NES collection stream. I hope to see you there. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Stay cool. Stay awesome. I hope to talk to you then. Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, out. Have a good night, everybody.